wishing to address the council forms. They're located on either end of the counters, and give them to the council clerk as soon as possible before the meeting begins. Individuals addressing the council should be respectful of others in their choice of words and actions. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order of the Terrebonne Parish Council for Wednesday, May 26th at 6 p.m. And I ask Mr. John Amity, could you please lead us in an invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please stand and bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you that we can do the business of Terrebonne Parish this evening. We just ask that your Holy Spirit would lead us and guide us so that we make the right choices for all the issues that we have before us tonight, Lord. It's our goal that we want to benefit Terrebonne Parish and bring glory to you in all that we do. Lord, we also pray for your blessings and your favor upon the residents of Terrebonne Parish. We do this all in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I'd also like to ask, before we say the pledge, for a moment of silence for the loss of our very first parish president, a great man, Mr. Edwin Bubby Lyons. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Ms. Margot.
Mr. Dirk Gidry. Here. Mr. Charles Clare. Here. Mr. Navy. Mr. Harding. Here. Mr. Michel. Here.
I can't hear you.
No, couldn't hear you.
Mr. Amade.
Here.
Ms. Domain. Here. Mr. Darren Gidry.
Here.
Mr. Babin.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum present.
Bit of housekeeping. I have a letter from Mr. John Navy considering an absence for this evening's meeting. It says this memorandum is to inform each of you that I am unable to attend this evening's council meetings due to a medical matter. But I have been advised, actually due to my medical matter, I've been advised of my limitations which prevent me from participating at this proceedings. And I'm continuing to work with staff and appropriate administrative personnel to ensure the needs of my constituents of District 1 are taken care of. I have reviewed the agendas and have made known any concerns I have. I apologize for any inconvenience my absence may cause. Approval of minutes of the special council session condemnations held on April 26, 2021. Moved by Mr. John Amity, seconded by Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. Aye. Approve minutes of the regular council session held on April 28, 2021. Moved by Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Distribute minutes of the regular council session held on March 12, 2021, which we have done. Approve manual checklists, April 2021. Moved by Mr. Dirk Gidry, seconded by Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Yeah, we good. Approve accounts payable bill list for May 17th, 2021 and May 24th, 2021. Moved by Mr. John Amity, seconded by Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 1, general business. Commendation, commending the Vanderbilt Catholic High School cheerleading team for winning the 2021 High School Cheerleading National Championship. Mr. Gerald Michel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We would, of course, on behalf of the Terrebonne Parish Council and Terrebonne Parish government, would like to congratulate these young ladies for their efforts in achieving this grand accomplishment. I'm going to read one of the certificates of recognition, and then when I'm finished, we'll call out the names and have you recognized. Have you stand in your place, please. I think with the number of y'all, it'd be easier just to do it in your place, and we'll bring it to y'all. And so this says, Certificate of Recognition, Terrebonne Parish President and Council do hereby recognize and commend, and each of their names is on their individual certificates, for competing and winning the 2021 High School Cheerleading National Championship, and for the successes both as an athlete and as an inspiration to Terrebonne Parish of what can be achieved through courage, dedication, and hard work. Each one is signed by our parish president, Gordon Dove, and by our council chairman, Darren Gidry, on behalf of the entire council. And so stand as I call your name, please. Miss Brooklyn Alston, Addie Arsamon, Natalie Arnett, Emma Odimon, Vanessa Bonner, Marcel Bourgeois, Sarah Brown, Amber Buquet, Haley Kazanave, Jimmy Detillier, Kate Geldner, Caitlin Hall, Amelie Hebert, Kennedy Labatt, Ava Lindsay, Hannah Luke, Nicole Mormond, Annabelle Mathern, is it Monica Morales? Is that correct? Okay, we're going to redo yours because I think your first name is misspelled. Okay. Anna Olivier, Sophia Palmisano, Emery Prentice, Claire Ramirez, Katie Ross, Josie Schwab, Mallory Serenier, Cameron Starr, Kate Thompson. Ladies and gentlemen, the cheerleading team with all the honors. And also, one other thing, Miss Kayla Vignair, please stand and be recognized for leading these young ladies not only to a more fulfilled academic year and a more fulfilled sense of accomplishment, but also to the championship. Miss Kayla Vignair.
Hey, General, over here. You're the parish president, I am. Check your resume. Congratulations.
And turn it sideways. Yeah. You see? And then you can pull it in.
One more, please.
See? You get a better shot.
Okay, got it. Okay. We're gonna take two more, please. One.
Wait, you got one. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good?
And would anybody like to say anything? Coach, would you like to say anything? You're welcome to make some comments if you'd like.
We're good. We're really proud of them. They worked really hard this year.
Why don't you come up to the mic? If you don't mind, state your name for the record.
Kayla Vignair. So it's like he said, they represent courage, hard work, and dedication, and we're really proud of them. They work year-round for this. For the last couple of years, they've come up short, so this year it was a real big accomplishment to be named national champions.
Mr. Michel, you finished?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. And we do have some lights, Miss Jessica Doming.
Yes, thank you very much. Congratulations, girls. I know how hard you guys have worked for this. I have cheerleaders in my family. My sister's actually a cheerleader at Nichols, and so I know how hard you guys work. And I've got 2 little girls who want to be cheerleaders when they grow up. And so just know that you're an inspiration to all little girls who want to one day do what you do. And so keep working hard, and we're so proud of you guys. Thanks.
Mr. Dove.
And girls, on behalf of the Terrebonne Parish government and the parish president, Gordon Dove, congratulations. What a great, great feat. I've had 5 children graduate from Vanderbilt. One of my daughters, Jackie, was a cheerleader, and congratulations. What a great tribute to Terrebonne Parish for what y'all have done, and thank y'all very much. And y'all have a great, great day, and God bless y'all. Thank you.
We have a motion to divert and take up item D, seconded by Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. So we're going to now do the commendation for the Vanderbilt Catholic High School girls track and field team on their Division 4A state championship win. And I'd like to read this, and I'm going to call on Coach Ezel to come up, and he can read off the names and hand out the certificates. It says, whereas the Terrebonne Parish Council was excited to learn that for the first time in history, and in Vanderbilt Catholic High School's history, the Vanderbilt Catholic girls track and field team won the Division 4A state championship title. And whereas the coaching staff and the members of the Lady Tigers have put forth numerous hours of hard work and considerable amount of determination to earn this highly prized title. And whereas through all of their victories on the local, district, and state levels, the Lady Tigers have remained focused on, Lady Terriers have remained focused on what is important in life and have demonstrated good sportsmanship. And whereas the Lady Terriers have exemplified the term superior athlete and may take pride in knowing that their families, their fellow students, and this community have been and are fully behind them. And whereas throughout all of their travels, the members of the Lady Terriers have served as excellent ambassadors of goodwill on behalf of Terrebonne Parish. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Terrebonne Parish Council, on behalf of Parish President Gordon E. Dove and the entire Terrebonne Parish Council, that the team and the members and coaches of the Vanderbilt Catholic Lady Terriers track and field team be congratulated for winning the Division 4A state championship title for 2021. And we're presenting this commendation on the 26th day of May 2021, signed by our parish president, Mr. Gordon Duff, and myself on behalf of the parish council. So I'd like to ask Coach Ezel if you could come up and go ahead and recognize all your coaches and team members. Mr. Duff? And if you don't mind mentioning their names in the mic so we can give them the recognition they deserve.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We want to say first, thank you for this honor and presenting us with these accommodations. We really appreciate it. These girls work really hard all year, and it is, like I said, once again, an honor to be recognized for it. All right, so first I want to call up and recognize our coaches who are here. Assistant Coach Jaworski Coleman, I don't think he could be here today. Coach Stephen Bro. Coach Dave Malone and Coach Kevin Trosclair couldn't be here, but Coach Babin is here. Avery Westbrook, our hurdler. Logan Hamilton. Yeah. Ella Chestnut.
My neighbor.
Bryn Kelso. Laura Seibert. Morgan Haydell. Kennedy Labatt. Emery Prentice. Caitlin Hall. Alexandra Petrie. Merritt Doyle. Mariam Koski. Madison Rishu. And did I miss anyone's name that's here that I didn't see? All right, nope, that's everyone. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach. Mr. Trosclair.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thanks. I know you're proud to have one of these athletes as your neighbor, but I'm proud to have one of these coaches as my brother.
Well,
my brother
congratulations.
coached pole vault at Vanderbilt. So, congratulations, girls. That's a great accomplishment to win state, and also to the cheerleaders for the national championship. It amazes me how y'all get this choreography together with this many of y'all. You know, I watch it on TV a lot, and it's amazing to see the athleticism that it takes to put that kind of performance on that you guys do. And so congratulations, and keep up the good work.
Mr. Dove. Oh, hold on. Why is this not working?
Great job, and keep it up, and congratulations, God bless you. On behalf of Terrebonne Parish government and the Terrebonne Parish president. Thank you.
We have a motion by Mr. Danny Babin to go back in regular order, seconded by Ms. Jessica Domingue. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item B, discussion and video presentation explaining the establishment of a one-way along Petrie Street. We do have a speaker card. Ms. Domingue, do you want to hear from our speaker first? Hold on.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're putting this back on the agenda. We had put it on the agenda a few months ago, and then there was some confusion about this one-way on Petrie Street, and so now we're putting it back here. And this has been a source of contention for this neighborhood for quite some time, longer than I've been here. And I just want people to know that this is not a personal vendetta against anybody. This is a matter of public safety, and so I would like Mr. Keith to possibly come up to explain the videos and explain what's happening here. Mr. Keith Ward actually took his fire truck down the road to show how difficult it is to get these fire trucks down there and why this one way is so important. So, Mr. Keith.
Hold on, Chief. There you go.
All right, Chief Ward, Houma Fire Department. I'd met with Ms. Jessica, on some this matter. It has been something that was ongoing back with Councilwoman Krista Duplantis, had brought this up some time back. I think they had done some trying to do with the no parking on one side of the street. The street is an old street, part of the old part of Houma. Very, very narrow. The videos that we're going to show, they're pretty short. We've had numerous calls on the street through the years. The trucks now that we have are 8 foot wide. And so when you're going down the street is not much wider than 10 foot in some areas. The videos you'll see are where the houses and the yards and even the poles that some people have in the front of their house is to keep people from parking in front of. So when you're trying to pass, it creates an issue with the traffic flow. We've even had medical calls with the gated ambulance where they're trying to come from one direction, we're coming from from the front side, they're coming from the back, and it creates a bottleneck in the street. So this is something we looked at. We met with the councilwoman. We came up with an idea of just doing the video, because usually a video will tell you a lot better than us trying to explain it. So I think Ms. Thomas has two of the videos that we have. One is going to be from the fire truck's perspective. The other one is going to be from my truck going on against the truck coming down the street.
And Chief Ward, before we play those, this problem is twofold, because not only is there traffic coming up and down, but there's also no parking for any of the homes, so they have to use the road as parking. And so it just creates this bottleneck, especially if you guys have an emergency, and that's why this is so important.
Correct.
Okay.
So this one will be from my vehicle going down the street, and then once you get past the little S in the street is when I come up on the actual fire truck coming in. But as you can, in the video, you can see where the yards, the houses, and like I said, this is an old part of town, where this street was, when it was created, was a very narrow street to begin with, and then it got paved at some point.
I think the video froze.
It's buffering. So at this point, where the truck's coming in at is, I'm actually having to make a decision where to go, because I'm looking towards the end of the street, and there's really no place for me to go except for to the right in front of this older house, onto the right.
Thanks, please.
And you can cut that one, Ms. Thomas, because that's the end of it. No, I think you need the one with the fire truck. No, ma'am. I think it would just be easier to show the other one with the fire, actual from the fire truck's perspective. So this is the truck. It's, and just to, again, perspective on, this is a 8-foot wide ladder truck. This is the first due truck for this area. That's off of East Tunnel Boulevard. So it's roughly 8-foot wide and 42-foot long. So it's a tandem axle truck that responds to this area. Like I said, it's very narrow. The street, to maneuver. If there's anybody that's parked on the side, just so happens on this day that there was no cars actually parked in front of any house along the street. But it's sometimes at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, there's no telling how, what it's going to be like on that street. And that's normally when we have a lot of those calls in this area. So that's where the truck is passing, me up. And then as you get further to the back is the district chief is coming down the street. And he had to also make a decision of where he was going to go. Okay, Ms. Thomas, that's the...
Thank you. I appreciate seeing that, and I can't even imagine how 2 cars would go down that road. Not necessarily a fire truck, but that meeting was between yourself, me, and Mr. Toops as well, and so we all came to the agreement that it should be a one-way. And actually, we had already voted on this a few months ago, and the ordinance is already there, so there is no action that we need to take. We just need to put those signs back. But the other thing I think is a problem is also the parking on the street. And so I'm open to any suggestions of what you guys have on the parking, because it seems to get, especially in those after work hours, there's a lot of cars down there. And so you really can't fit anything down there when there's a lot of cars parked. And if there's an emergency, you guys are going to be in a sticky situation. So that's something I think we also need to address, is the parking on that street. But I agree that we need to go ahead and put those signs up. And I appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Mr. Dove?
Yes, I just want to go on record that the administration and myself, we 100% concur with the fire chief and with Ms. Jessica Domingue. I mean, I'm very familiar with this street. We've been looking at trying to do some kind of drainage on it. It is very, very, very poorly designed area, but designed back 70 years ago, 60 years ago, however old. And I just want to tell you, on behalf of administration, we concur with the chief 100%.
Thank you.
Mr. Carl Harding?
Yes, I'm proud to say that I worked in that area for the Homer Fire Departments over 24 years ago. And I'm also proud to say that I worked with Mr. God bless the dead, Mr. Louis Doron. And I remember Mr. Trish in that area also. That's an area that even when I was in that area, serving that area, along with Collier Street. That's some streets in there that are very, very narrow, and shouldn't be any question. It's just the fact that, we're all there. Should figure out what to do. There shouldn't be any question of whether we should do anything. It's what to do. So, it's like parish president said, I'm supporting whatever ideas you guys come up with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Thanks, Chief. And we do have a speaker card, Mr. David Bienvenu. If you don't mind stating your name and address for the record.
David Bienvenu, 4004 Lano Drive, Berg, Louisiana, 70343.
Go ahead, Mr. Bienvenu.
I own Radiator Service Company, which is at the corner of Park and Petrie Street. And that building was built in 1964 by Mr. Bill Chauvin as Dixie Welding Supply. And from the time it was created, industrial trucks backed in and pulled out, backed in and pulled out. And, you know, we do radiators that are big enough that they have to get permits to bring them in. We do frac radiators, and we work for all the major engine companies. We do work for the parish. I mean, we recently did a radiator for the new pump station down Little Bayou Black. There's no way that if that was a one-way street that we would have been able to work on that radiator. We have to be able to back trucks in and out. And I would ask that I keep the street, my area clean. I bought 7 pieces of property since 1994, East Park Lumber Company. I bought Mr. Blackie Marie's property, and I keep my stuff straight. And when we bought the property on the other side of Petrie Street, the road was grown over so much with trees and fences and stuff, and we cleaned all that up. We reclaimed 3 feet of Petrie Street right next to my shop, and we constructed a bulkhead to make sure that it doesn't wash down again. And I have the side of my building paved, and the street is 15 feet wide in front of my, you know, on the side of my building. And we have an additional 5 or 6 feet besides our 8 feet that we use to park our company trucks. And I need to ask that Petrie Street be 2-way at least to the back of my property, because I mean, we have to get stuff in and out. We work on stuff from all over the friggin' world. You know, we got stuff, and people depend on us. And I mean, I already had to put up with them taking part of the frontage of our building away when they built the twin span bridges. We were inconvenienced with the Daggville Bridge, with the Howard Avenue Bridge, the big bridges. I mean, it's been a mess for 25 years, but we survived. And, you know, they do stuff without ever asking us, you know, and we, when Mr. Pizzolata was a councilman, they made the walking track, which was good. They beautified everything. They planted cypress trees 3 feet from it, so it's going to break. But, you know, when they went to the end of the Park Avenue, they came back to the Park Avenue side of the street, and they had no way for trucks to turn around. And we had to, you know, we called Gordon Dove, and he got with the state, and the very next morning they built a turnaround for trucks to turn around. But we had an issue today, and it doesn't really pertain to one-way on Petrie Street, but, I mean, trucks get lost on that area of town all the time and trying to back out against traffic. And today they had a big 18-wheeler that was trying to back out all the way from the Intracoastal and back all the way back out to the Daggville Bridge. City of Houma policemen just passed straight, but it's an issue. The whole area is a mess, but I just ask that in my place that we have two-way traffic to be able to get trucks in and out. With we have a big crane in the back. I have videos of, you know, force power systems and the parish coming in and getting the Hanson pump station radiators in and out. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bienvenu. Ms. Domingue?
Yes, Mr. Bienvenu, thank you for coming. It's nice to finally meet you. We've talked several times. And we did take that into account whenever we had that meeting the other day. And we actually did suggest that the first 300 feet would be two-way. So I would like to go ahead and make a motion that we amend that ordinance and add that language that the first 300 feet be a two-way for Mr. Bienvenu to be able to do his business in that location.
We have a motion by Ms. Jessica, seconded by Mr. Steve Trosclair. Discussion. Is that it, Ms. Jessica?
That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Dove, did you want to add something?
Yeah, that's basically what I was going to suggest. If we have enough room in there, and if you know, the fire chief can get his truck and get another vehicle in there, so we definitely, administration doesn't have a problem doing that. Happy to work with businesses.
And after hours, that's all clear to me. During business hours, swiped. So,
Thank you. Mr. Trosclair.
Yeah, question is, okay, David just mentioned something about after working hours, and would it be feasible maybe to have it one way from 7 o'clock in the evening or 8 o'clock at night, one way, the whole length? If the chief feels like that, he said he gets most of his calls out at night down that street, so maybe a timeline, would that work with you, David, or?
Hold on.
we 24/7.
Okay.
I never
Well,
knew
just
when a
scratch-
truck's gonna
I didn't
come.
say that. That's just a thought.
I wish I had an 8 to 5 job. I've been waiting 40 years for
Yeah,
that.
well, I figured that was common, but I just want, it was a thought. and
I appreciate it.
But, no,
Well,
I'm
I
all
think
for
they
it.
should have one way on both sides of the street. I mean, I know it's just an alley, and that's a problem, but, you know, when they put those signs up, nobody told me anything. And I thought one of my forklifts knocked the stop sign down, and they just took it down and made one way. And I ain't gonna lie, I came unglued because I don't think that was fair. And some of the people down the street called me. I told them, I'm calling HTV. And nobody parked on that street for probably a week because they thought I was calling HTV.
All right. Well, thank you. That's all I got.
Mr. Pulaski, you have something to add?
Well, I was just thinking, on the other side of the Intercoastal, you have Goes Avenue, and it is a one-way from Park for the first, I'm going to say 300 feet. And then from that point on, it's two-way. So this is kind of a reverse of it. But I would think that if we were to keep that first stretch two-way and then the other portion were a one-way, I mean, there's sufficient room for somebody. I mean, as long as it's signed at the, what is that, Cecile? Is that the street that's at the back end of? Correct. Yeah, so if that's signed appropriately, saying, okay, well, this is a one-way, we shouldn't have people, coming up. So I think that might work. Yeah.
Mr. Michel.
It'd be the one way the same way, though, heading north from Park, going to the back.
Mr. Michel.
Exactly what is the motion?
Ms. Domain, would you repeat your motion?
Yes, my motion is to amend the original ordinance to add that it be two-way for the first 300 feet and then one way for the rest.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and so if we're amending an ordinance,
Yes.
do we not have the same requirements as if we're introducing an ordinance and have to have the ordinance in the backup and a 2-week holdover?
Ah.
I think the motion is to instruct legal, I guess, to
Okay,
present us with a,
With a-
to draft the
with a-
ordinance to do
okay.
that.
All
And
right.
then it'll be introduced. It had to hold over for 2, so it might be 4 weeks before the signs go up, but it's in the process.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Ms. Bienvenue.
Motion to go into public hearing.
We have a motion to go into public hearing by Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're in 6:30 public hearing. Item A, an ordinance to amend the 2021 adopted operating budget and 5-year capital outlay budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Martin Luther King Sewer Project, $210,000. Homa Fire Department, $80,000. Homa Police Department, $22,500. General Fund, Council Clerk, $16,000. East Homa East Park Walking Trails, $27,890. Parish-wide recreation, $26,460. Road and Bridge, Island Road Temp Structure, $250,000. Public once, public twice, public 3 times. Motion to close by Mr. John Amity, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion to adopt by Mr. John Amity, seconded by Mr. Steve Trosclair. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item B, an ordinance to acquire any and all sites and/or servitudes that are required to facilitate the construction and maintenance of the Village East Community Center project. Public once, Public twice. Third time public. Motion to close by Mr. Steve Trosclair. Seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. Motion to adopt by Mr. Gerald Michel, seconded by Mr. Steve Trosclair. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item C, an ordinance to amend certain portions of Section 18-9 of the Terrebonne Parish Code of Ordinance, speed humps and regulations, to include a list of a speed hump along Regal Row as part of the attached Exhibit A. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Gerald Michel. Second to Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Motion to adopt by Mr. John Amity. Second to Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item D, an ordinance to amend the parish code of ordinances to provide for the enforcement of certain traffic violations in the designated school zones by automated means and to provide for civil penalties for those violations. The way we're going to work this is we're going to close public hearing, and then I'm going to allow time for administration, then I'm going to allow time for legal, and then finally I'm going to allow time for our sheriff to give a presentation to us. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Gerald Michel, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor say aye. Mr. Dove.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm going to be brief here, and then I'm going to turn it over to legal to go ahead and vet through this ordinance, because this is very important, because as we firmly believe this will end up in court. So I believe that the council needs to be made sure by Mr. Hebert and Mr. Vincent DeGate that they are aware of everything that we know with this particular ordinance. Now, for the record, Mr. Danny Babin presented this ordinance. He did not, as far as I know, get with legal Mr. Vincent DeGate. This is not done in government. Mr. Babin went rogue and he used the sheriff's attorneys. That's not done. The sheriff's attorneys are not familiar with this government like our attorneys are. That was duly appointed by me, ratified by you, be it Mr. Hebert and Mr. Vincent DeGate. So with that said, I've never seen someone go rogue like this before, but it happened. Another thing I want to make sure everyone understands, this ordinance says, whereas the Terrebonne Parish government finds and determines, it doesn't say the sheriff's department. When you go to court, he's going to be clear over here. And I understand what the sheriff's trying to do. He's going to make a lot of money with this, and he's trying to protect the schools at the same time. That I don't have a problem with. I have a problem with an ordinance that will not only get us sued, can get me individually sued, because it does not, it violates our home rule charter, it violates the Constitution, and you cannot go put an ordinance of this magnitude without going through legal. Now, why Mr. Babin did that, I don't know. Maybe this is another backdoor deal. I don't know. But New Orleans has a $25 million lawsuit against it. It has went through the district court, it went through the Fourth Circuit, and the writ was not heard by the Louisiana Supreme Court, and they owe $25 million. Now, I'm going to start calling this deal right here LEPA Unit 2. Because LEPA Unit 1 is going to cost us $130 million. This is going to cost us a lot of money because it is not done correctly. We have to follow the Home Rule Charter. You have a case here that you're not only going to go to court with on the class action status with Mr. Hebert, and Mr. Vincent DeGate's going to come up here with I don't know, he's got 4 or 5 pages of things that he sees wrong with this. And look, I know the sheriff and I know Babin, they work the council and they got the votes for the night. I realize that. They're going to pass it. I'm going to veto it. I'm going to take this and I'm going to send it to the Attorney General, because I'm not going to enforce something that I know to violate the Home Rule Charter. That is our Constitution, ladies and gentlemen. The Constitution of Louisiana, it violates. Now remember, Bill Dodd's a good guy right here, but him and that other attorney work for the sheriff. They do not work for y'all. They look out for the sheriff's interest. That's what they're supposed to do, and he does a good job. He's been doing it 30 years. So I don't have any animosity towards him drawing up an ordinance. I have a problem with Mr. Babbitt putting the ordinance in here without getting with Mr. Vincent DeGate. We just cannot do things like that. So from now on, everyone wants to run out and get their own attorneys. We're going to start submitting ordinances to it. Now, I plan, no matter what happens with this, I am going to put signs all over this parish at every school system, slow down your speeding. I'm already putting them up all over the place. I thank the sheriff for bringing it to our attention. Something needs to be done in the school zones. And if I'm going to have a problem with this ordinance, I don't have a problem with the context of it. I have a problem with the way it's being done. And so we're going to put signs up at the schools to slow down because they did pull the city of Homer out. So we have to do it anyway along the city. And look, and I know everyone here is trying to come up with a solution. We don't want our children to be in peril or nothing. But what this is going to lead you and lead to you, and I'm going to have Mr. Hebert explain it, after Mr. Vincent DeGate talks, is a 1983 civil rights violation lawsuit. If y'all all remember, I don't know, a year, 2 years ago, when the sheriff's department seized a bunch of computers, I was pulled into that lawsuit. I was sued personally for one statement that I made to the sheriff's department, and I don't mind, I'm a big boy. We get 1983 civil rights lawsuits against us from prisoners and other ones. It's nothing new, but they have no validity to it. This could take your assets. We sat there and had to go, the parish, myself, the sheriff was sued personally. So I'm very familiar with 1983. I'm not going to enforce this ordinance if I know it violates our Home Rule Charter. So I'm going to ask the Attorney General to step in on this because I cannot, for the life of me, and look, I applaud the sheriff. I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to get some safety around the schools and at the same time make a few $1 million. Happy with me. Maybe we won't have to pay him the $1.5 million every year we pay for the jail. So, but you can't do it. Mr. Babbitt knows he's not supposed to do what he just did. So we have no legal in here. Now, as a counsel, I want y'all to understand, legal will come up here, and what I think they're going to say is that they are going to advise you not to vote for this. So when you vote for this, and a lot of you are, I know the deal's already been cut, you have just exposed yourself personally. Now, I will do everything as parish president if you're sued personally to defend you and do everything that I could do by law. But I want y'all to understand every issue here. This is more than just passing something and making our sheriff, which is a good man, happy. And this is about being sued personally. I'm not going to be sued on this. I'm going to veto this. I'm going to send it to Attorney General. If I have to, I'll bring it to court. Because I'm not going to enforce something I know to be so incorrect, it's unbelievable. Now, if Vincent DeGate, who is the one that's been doing this, if he walks up here and he says he don't see a problem with it, I don't have a problem with this. I won't veto it. But he's got 4 or 5 pages problem with this. So I implore y'all, I know the votes is done and this is probably going to pass. I'm going to veto it and I don't know what's going to happen from there. But please be careful what you're doing. Listen to Mr. Vincent DeGate, and I'm going to ask Mr. Hebert after that to explain what exposure you have under the 1983 civil rights violation. I was sued by that. My assets were all I did was do a statement, and everything I owned was up in a federal court. I'm not going through that again. So please be careful. I understand it's a tough decision, But with that, I'm gonna leave and let y'all vet it out. It's gonna be it may be a long process, may not. I'm gonna say I wanted to say my 2 cents. And remember this, 2013, LEPA was passed in this room. LEPA has cost Terrebonne Parish $25 million since I've been in office. That $25 million still has 24 years at $4.4 million, and you can verify that with Miss Candace right there, the CFO. We will pay over $130 million because it wasn't vetted correctly. I'm not blaming anyone who didn't vet it. And what's ironic is this same thing, without going through our attorneys by Mr. Babin, the guy who made the motion in 2013 to move LEPA forward with Mr. Babin. So this is a double header for him that we are going to pay for. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, as good as I'm sitting up here, I will vet this through the Attorney General. I will vet this through court. If I lose, I will have cover for Gordon Dove. And I just want y'all to be careful because this is a garbage right here. This is when Vince the Gates goes up there and shows you what's in here. I hope y'all use your good sense and not just vote with a sheriff who's a nice guy. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and leave because y'all can vet it out. But I will tell you, I will veto it because I think they have the votes. Thank y'all.
And since Mr. Babin was the one who put this on the agenda and your name was mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and let you respond.
Yeah, as usual, Mr. Dove, you like to make things personal for some ungodly reason. If you go back on the LEPA thing, I made the motion to send it for the night that we voted on it, and Ms. Orlando Williams made the motion, and it was a unanimous vote by the council, okay? So, but the point being here is, Mr. Guidry, did you not meet with the sheriff and Mr. Vince DeGate and their attorneys on this particular ordinance?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so...
No, not on this. We met on an ordinance that we put together.
My point is,
a separate
my
ordinance.
point is that the council chairman and attorney for the parish met with the sheriff and his attorney, not Danny Babin, okay? I happen to believe this is a good thing. We've been talking a lot here lately about quality of life, and very important. But you know what this is about? This is about life, saving a child's life, all right? So if legal says it's wrong and you get an attorney general's opinion, then it goes by the wayside. But I see it, and you keep talking about the sheriff making millions of dollars. I can't wait till he gets up here and he can explain his position about how much money he's really going to make. But the key in this whole thing is, why do you have to make it personal, all right? This is government in its actions, simple and pure. But you want to take a shot at me because I vote. It was unanimous when we voted the LEPA, okay? So don't ever forget that, Mr. Dove. Thank you.
I'll let you respond, Mr.
Well, I think you need to respond. In fact, I want to applaud Mr. Darren Guidry for meeting with the sheriff, meeting with Vincent DeGate, trying to get this government involved so we could have something here. It was hard to straighten it out. They took what Mr. Babbitt forgot is not telling you, they took Darren Guidry's ordinance and threw it in the garbage. And they started with their own, and they may have used some of him, they may have used some of Vince's, but that did not go through legal, Danny. It doesn't work like that. You know it as well as I know it.
Okay, Danny.
Mr. DeGate is not legal? You saying it has to go through legal. They met, okay? I purposely did not go to that meeting. Mr. Darren Guidry went to the meeting, and you had a legal representative from Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government there. So don't say it did not go to legal. It did.
All right, I'm going to say this is the third
One last point. Mr. Babin, answer one question to them, because Mr. Vincent DeGate is going to tell you. Did Vincent DeGate okay your ordinance? Yes or no?
This ordinance that's on here?
Yeah, this ordinance, not the one that's sitting outside.
Well, let me ask you something. Mr. Vincent DeGate saw this ordinance, correct? I'm asking you.
I think Mr. Vincent DeGate is going to come up here.
It's a yes or no question, Dan. That's very easy. Don't go around the circle. Yes or no. The answer is no. You know it.
Did I write this ordinance? Is that what you're asking?
No, the sheriff wrote it.
All right,
Okay.
guys.
Yeah,
Let's
and we're going to
move
let
on.
the sheriff, I want to hear what the sheriff
Okay.
has to say too.
we're
Because I
gonna
don't
hear
like the
that.
implication that you made earlier
We're gonna hear
about
that. Come
backdoor
on.
deals being made, Mr. Dove. The only one that makes backdoor deals around here, I think, is you, okay?
All right, let's move on. Let's move on. All right, let's next go to our legal, Mr. Vince DeGate. We set this up, so we're going to go ahead and let legal. I'll be more than happy to let you guys respond in our deliberation. Go ahead,
Thank you.
Mr. DeGate, you're on.
For the record, my name is Vincent DeGate Jr., and of course, I'm one of the parish attorneys. My address is 7905 Park Avenue, Houma, Louisiana. First of all, I want to thank Chairman Guidry, the rest of the council members, President Dove, also parish administration for giving me the opportunity to express my opinion regarding the proposed ordinances that are on the docket this evening. I also want to welcome Sheriff Saunier and his team that are here. I also see Chris Ernie in the audience. I'm assuming he's with the DA's office and a representative of them, but I'm really not sure about that. But anyway, the first point I want to make is that in reviewing all these ordinances and cases we looked at, okay, is that I think, in my opinion, I made it clear that at least more probably than not, it's okay and proper and constitutional to adopt civil speeding violations and penalties by automated means, okay? So you can do it. The trick is that you got to do it right, because if you don't do it right, you're going to subject yourself to class action lawsuits, which means millions and millions of dollars. Okay? In these particular ordinances that were presented, that are on the agenda tonight, I saw serious flaws in there. There's Louisiana constitutional violations, I believe, and charter violations. There's a lack of protection for the parish, for the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, and other problems and issues. And the bottom line is that I strongly recommend against this council approving this ordinances that have been submitted. And let me clarify some of the discussions that went on before. These ordinances are not my ordinances. These are not Councilman Guidry's ordinances that are submitted. These are ordinances that are being submitted by the Terrebonne Sheriff's team. They put this together. We did not insert any provisions therein. We didn't proofread it or anything of that nature. They may have adopted a few of our ideas or suggestions, but that's it. We didn't get input on that or whether we would agreeable to that or not, okay? And with all due respect to the sheriff and his team, the purpose of our meetings throughout the session, at least my goal was to hopefully come up with a consensus, an agreement of a set of ordinances that could be presented to this council that I may not fully agree on, but at least the issues and the problem, the liability problems would be minimized, okay? That didn't occur, okay? And one thing in our meetings, and with all due respect to the sheriff, it's clear he wanted his set of ordinances, and he wanted it his way, okay? And that's what you're being presented with here tonight. We've proposed some ordinances in this matter with the help of Councilman Guidry, who made some revisions to my suggestions. A lot of his revisions, he was mimicking the Lafayette ordinances that were in effect, okay? But that was out. And our last meeting, which was on a Thursday, May 6th, is when we got together. At that meeting, we had submitted these proposed ordinances before that meeting to the sheriff's team so that they could review them. At that meeting, that went by the wayside, okay? What would happen is the sheriff, in the meantime, had proposed a new set of ordinances, okay? And I don't mean this, and I'm not crying over spilled milk, okay? But we never saw the ordinances before that meeting. In fact, I never saw them in the meeting, to be honest with you, okay? And I'm not saying that I should have been, because I don't know when they were prepared, okay? But anyway, at the end of the meeting, they were going to make some changes to these ordinances, okay, that they had prepared, not us, okay? With that, they submitted that on a Monday, which was, I think, just a few days later, and that was the same day that these ordinances were submitted to this council to be placed on the agenda. And as you can see in the ordinances that were proposed, you can see the highlighted in yellow provisions. Those highlighted provisions were supposedly the last changes that were made on those set of ordinances from our Thursday meeting to Monday when we received them. And that same Monday, they were submitted to the council. In our meeting, and just to let you know, on our set of ordinances that we proposed, we numbered them. We assigned a section of the code where they're going to be, and also numbered each of the provisions, okay? In our meeting, I suggested to the other side that these ordinances at least need to be numbered and put in a provision in the appropriate chapter of our code, okay? Their attorney that does their federal work, I think out of New Orleans, and I don't remember his name offhand, suggested that, wait, you could do that after they make those changes. My assumption was they were going to make the changes and then they were going to number them before they submitted. But these ordinances were submitted without any numbers, and also the last changes highlighted. So you can see what they made at the end. So with that, I just want to make it clear that it's not ordinances that we submitted, that I prepared or that Councilman Guidry prepared that are being submitted and asked to be approved by this council. I think the best way to you to understand some of my views in this matter is to maybe look at it from the sheriff's perspective first, okay? Because if I was looking at it from the sheriff's perspective, if I was the sheriff's attorney, guess what? I wouldn't have any problems with these ordinances. And you're looking at me like I'm crazy, like I'm doing a double talk, and maybe you think I am, but I'm not, because it's different issues involved for different parties. You're the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government. He's the sheriff. But looking at it from the sheriff's perspective, what does this program do? It's expected to generate millions and millions of dollars, okay? I've heard figures of $15 to $16 million annually, okay? I don't know if that's correct. They haven't presented anything to us to show us that. But I've heard that figure mentioned through the grapevine. I've also seen in other jurisdictions what it's been producing. I think I received an article from one of the council members that showed that I think the projections for New Orleans the first year were like $24 million. You look at the articles that I presented in my opinion letter in the Georgia County, that basically it was like I can't remember, $30,000 in a 3-month period or something like that. But basically that translates along the lines of what we would anticipate that these revenues from the sheriff's office would generate to him. And when you look at that, Blue Line, which is a Tennessee company, okay, base company, they collect the money. They're going to keep 40% of that money. So that's approximately $6 million a year. Think about it. $6 million a year coming from the economic coffers of Terrebonne Parish and being deposited in Tennessee. Our people are hurting right now. They're hurting with the downturn in the oil and gas industry. They're hurting from COVID. And yet we're allowing this kind of money to be flow out of the state and out of the parish more particularly. In addition, it's my understanding, and I've been told by the representatives of the sheriff, that the DA's office is going to get 20% for his role in it. So that's going to be another $2 or $3 million that's going to be subtracted from that. Okay? That still leaves the sheriff with plenty of money. What is it really going to cost the sheriff to implement this program with additional direct out-of-pocket expenses for additional personnel or other things that are needed for the program? It's not going to be that much more expensive for him. It may be $500,000 or so. So when you break it down, guess what? From the sheriff's perspective, yeah, he may be receiving a net of $5 million, $7 million or so a year. And when you look at that, and yes, he's going to be brought into a lawsuit. And yes, it's going to cost him $500,000 or so to go through that lawsuit. But guess what? the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government is the one that's going to pick up the tab. And so annually, when you look at it, he's going to net several $1 million, probably $5 million plus a year, and have a one-time payment of maybe $500,000. So from that perspective, it's a good deal for the sheriff. And I don't mean that in disrespectful for the sheriff. That's the more power to him. But it's not a good deal for the parish. And I don't represent the sheriff. I represent Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government. And last time I checked, this body, this council, is the legislative body for the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government. You do not represent the sheriff's office. You represent the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and your constituents. And that's what's all important and what we have to remember. Most of the time, our interests are aligned between the sheriff and the government. However, in this case, it's not, because of the tremendous exposure you have to the parish. Now, when you look at what's happening, the term has been used, inventing the wheel, okay? Because that's what you're doing in this case, okay? These concepts of civil violation penalties for speeding in Louisiana are all by local governments. In other words, like the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, or cities. And throughout the country, even the cases I saw, it's the same way. This is the first time you see where a sheriff is presenting the ordinances and also the one that's administrating and running the program and pocketing all the money. So with inventing the wheel, you got to be careful because you're the first ones to do it. So that means there's all kind of pitfalls that you got to watch out for. And so if you're not careful, you're going to mess up, and that's going to cost us big dollars. The first thing I see that is a major problem, in my opinion, is the legal process that's been presented in these ordinances, okay? I think it's a violation of our Louisiana Constitution. As per I cited in my opinion letter, Article 5, Section 16A establishes district courts as courts of original jurisdiction. That means that's where the lawsuit initiates, okay? There is a few exceptions. One of the exceptions is for workman's comp cases. And this was pointed out to me by Mr. Aber. If you remember correctly, what happened is with workman's comp is that they wanted to establish a separate administrative hearing process, et cetera, for that. Okay? The legislature couldn't do it. They had to get a constitutional amendment to put that in there for they could adopt legislation so that they could have a separate procedure for workman's comp in order to overall save money for the program. In addition, Section 10A, Article 5, Section 10A provides that Court of Appeal has appellate jurisdiction. Okay? So what did they do in these ordinances if you look at it? It provides that, hey, you go through administrative hearing process and basically you get a judgment, okay? And with that, you have a right to appeal to the district court. Now, the term appeal, as used by the representatives of the sheriff's office that put that in there, is a term of art. The Constitution clearly provides that district courts are courts of original jurisdiction. They're not courts of appeal. You can't circumvent that. And you can't circumvent it saying, okay, well, you don't have to go to district court, you go to the Court of Appeals. No, you can't do that. That's a violation of the Louisiana Constitution. And in my opinion, it's fairly clear. I mean, I'm not telling you it's a possibility. I'm not telling you more probably than not it's a violation. I'm telling you with almost a high degree of certainty it's a violation. And with a violation, it runs into problems and runs into your class action lawsuits, which I'll talk about a little later. Another major problem is that the DA's office is appointed as the judge, okay? The problem with that is that the DA being the judge, guess what? In this particular ordinances, he also is the one that collects the revenue of the unpaid fines. In addition to that, he receives 20% of the revenue. That's what I've been told by the sheriff's office representatives. So think about it. Here is the judge that's in the case, that's judging this. He's got an interest. He's got an interest because he collects the revenues, plus he gets a 20% financial interest. The cases are clear. I cited to you a Louisiana Supreme Court case that said it needs to be a neutral decision maker, and it needs to be an impartial decision maker. And also, it requires the decision maker not have a direct or indirect financial stake in the case. What do we have here? It's a clear violation when you do that. So why, if you were looking at protecting the parish and you were working from the sheriff's end, why in the world would you put that in there? Why would you put it in there to expose this parish to unnecessary liability? There's no excuse for that. This can easily be avoided and changed. That's the thing about all these ordinances and the problems I have with them, that, yeah, they can be done correctly for the most part. There are some things that the way they want it to happen that you can't. But all these are issues. These ordinances are a problem. Also, the net revenues go to the sheriff. As I pointed out in my opinion letter, you can't, the Constitution prohibits you from donating funds. With the large amount of revenues that are received over and above the value of the services, that leads to a problem, because what you're doing then is, in essence, donating those funds to the sheriff. Now, there's a way to do it legally, but they're not done legally through here, I don't believe. You would need some sort of cooperative endeavor agreement or something of that nature, intergovernmental agreement, something to justify what this is going to be used for, the excess funds, that's going to also benefit the parish.
Hold on, Mr. Michel, go ahead.
Can you repeat what you're talking about with the donation of funds?
In other words, the Constitution, I believe it's Article 7, Section 14A, prohibits funds or anything of value shall not be donated to or for any person, etc., public or private. In essence, that's what you're doing, because guess what? You have costs of the program, all right? Everybody understands that, okay? Blue Line's going to have costs that go to them or fees that they earn. You're gonna have the district attorney that's gonna have fees that they're gonna earn. The sheriff is gonna have costs, and the sheriff is gonna have services that they're rendering also. And over and above the value of all that, though, the sheriff keeps the money. So with that, what you're doing really by creating this ordinance is you're donating that to him, and that's the problem. That's a potential problem. Okay. The other thing too is that the revenues are collected by Blue Line Solution and others, basically, okay? And I think that is a probable violation of our charter, because our charter provides that those revenues, duties, collecting of it, is done by our Director of Finance, Ms. Candace Malden, okay? And it says it includes the collection and the custody of all monies of the parish government from whatever source. That's what she's responsible for. In that, though, let me point out that it says collection except where specifically otherwise provided by law, okay? They didn't use the term ordinances in this charter. They used the term law, okay? And Councilman Guidry and I had this discussion, and he differs with me on this opinion, okay? He thinks that that's not, that an ordinance and a law is equal. I went back last night and I looked at our charter even. And in our charter, guess what? They use the term ordinance consistently throughout. And it doesn't say that an ordinance equals a law, okay? It doesn't mean that it's the same terminology. And why? I'm going to tell you what I think. The drafters of the charter, which is our Constitution that was passed by a vote of the people, use that specific term for a reason. The reason is that this council can't go back and change it by just an ordinance, because if you could, then it would nullify the particular provision. It wouldn't be of any effect whatsoever, because you could change it at a whim. You just got to pass another ordinance to disagree with that. They wanted it that way for a reason, so it has to go back for a vote of the people, okay? And in this case, Terrebonne Parish is not collecting any of the revenues. Terrebonne Parish has nothing to do with the collection of revenues. So what are you doing? You're passing these ordinances, and in essence what you're doing, what it appears like you're doing, is you're just assigning that to the sheriff. Can you legally do that? That's a serious question. Can you legally assign to avoid this particular provision of our charter? I think you got a serious problem there. But that's going to be the council's decision on that point. In addition, the DA is to collect unpaid fees. Again, you have a provision of the charter where it provides that the parish attorney shall represent the government in all legal proceedings. Okay? Again, you got a problem there. It's the same thing. Can you circumvent the charter by assigning this right to the sheriff and whoever it goes to? Actually, in this particular case, in the ordinance, you're not assigning, you're appointing the DA to collect it. That's what you're saying. That's what's in the ordinance. In addition, and this disturbs me, it really does, and all due respect to Mr. Dobb and the sheriff and his legal team, the last amendment that they did, that's highlighted, it forces the Terrebonne Parish attorney to select the DA or as the hearing officer. In other words, a representative of the DA's office as the hearing officer. This council doesn't have any authority to do that whatsoever. And in that particular situation, guess what you're doing? You're exposing him to personal liability. Think about it. He's participating in something that's going to be declared unconstitutional. So he's exposing himself personally in that regard and exposing his malpractice insurer. And I assure you, he doesn't have $50 million of malpractice insurance. And if I was Mr. Hebert, there's no way I would fulfill that order that you're giving me. Okay, because you have no legal right to do that. And that's just it would be subjecting myself to malpractice, which only a fool would do that. Why did the sheriff's team put this in at the last minute? You got to ask yourself that. Why? There's no reason for it. It didn't have to go in there, but they put it in. We know what it appears like to me. It looks like a political vendetta. It looks like, hey, I don't like Jules Hebert. So therefore, I'm going to put this in there just to upset him. Okay? I see you shaking your head, Mr. Michel, but I'm not finished yet. Let me finish. With that, you need to take a look at yourselves, okay? Because guess what? When you pass these ordinances tonight, you're participating in that. Because there have been rifts between, I know, Mr. Hebert and some of the council members. And some attorney is going to use that. I can promise you that. Because that's what it looks like. Hey, political endeavor by the sheriff's office. Council doesn't like Mr. Hebert, and therefore they are participating in this plot against him to put him in that situation. Okay? And just to let you know, usually you're given immunity as a councilman for decisions and stuff that you do. But look, in this case, you're going to have a strong recommendation by myself as the attorney for the parish, and also I think Mr. Hebert is going to say basically the same thing. So you got two legal opinions that are giving you strong recommendations that you got serious problems like with this ordinances. You got serious liability to the parish with it, and yet if you pass it anyway, is your immunity still going to apply with the political overtures? Think about it. You're trying to help out the sheriff, who's going to make millions on this deal. There's no doubt about that. But with that, you also got the political overture against the parish attorney. You're going to have to deal with that. I want to warn you that you could use that immunity. And so be very careful in what you do today. In addition, there's no indemnity and hold harmless provisions in here. If you were actually administrating this program, I can assure you and almost guarantee you, as attorney for the parish, there would be hold harmlesses and indemnity agreements in the agreements with Blue Line Solution or whoever that third-party provider may be. And also it should be with the sheriff's office too. Why? And also you'd want it backed by adequate insurance, okay? And one of the reasons I'm saying that about Blue Line, guess what? No one has looked, as far as I know, into the financial status of Blue Line. Nobody knows what their financial status is right now, okay? But most of the time, companies like that, guess what? There's a parent company or another company that holds all the assets. And companies like Blue Line and other companies they operate, but they're just operational companies. They really have nothing of value. But we don't know that. No one has checked into that. But something in the Blue Line agreement that gave you a hint to that, okay, was that it says for additional services with Blue Line Solutions or any of the companies owned by Blue Line Holdings, LLC, they're going to charge you, of course, for that. But it indicates that, hey, there's a big company out there that probably has all the assets and the financial backing needed to guarantee these particular agreements. And if we were involved in that for the parish, we would have wanted the parent company, the one that has the bucks, okay, the assets, to guarantee these agreements too, because it only makes good business sense, okay? The other thing too is I want to point to your attention, in Blue Line Agreement 1, as I referred to in my opinion letter, the first agreement that was entered into with the sheriff and Blue Line, they had at least a limited indemnity provision in favor of the parish by the sheriff. That was removed in the second agreement. In my conversations with the sheriff's team, I told them that I would recommend from the parish's end that they have indemnity agreements in there, where Blue Line also is, where the parish is a third-party beneficiary, and that there be agreements in there where the parish will be indemnified and hold harmless and backed by adequate insurance. None of that was done. In our last meeting, and Counsel Guidry can attest to this, is that they contend, and we asked them for indemnity agreements. The sheriff did not want any indemnity agreements. He said their excuse was it's done by ordinance, therefore he can't indemnify. Well, I disagree with that. But even if it was that case, you can simply assign this to the Terrebonne Parish government, and then you enter into a CEA or an intergovernment agreement with the sheriff, wherein they are the administrator of the program, and guess what? You put in there those indemnity and hold harmless agreements that are needed. Now, all the articles I read in dealing with these kind of statutes, okay, and ordinances, it's all boiled down to public perception. Is this for safety, or is it a money grab, okay? The sheriff contends it's for safety, and I'm not going to argue that point that it's not for safety. But look at it from the public's perspective. They're going to see the millions of dollars that are going to be collected through this program. This is going to be public record. They're going to know, okay? And if you look at it with the millions of dollars that are coming in, guess what? You have a penalty fee of $30 that's effective from 30 days from the date of mailing of notice, whether or not it's received by the violator. Think about it. You get assessed a penalty and you don't get the notice in time, or you don't even get it at all, and you got to pay $30. Is that for public safety? Is that fairness, or is that a money grab? In addition, it costs you $50. Think about it. If you want to contest it to go through the administrative process, you got to put up $50. In Lafayette, I don't think you put up anything to do that. Again, what is the public going to perceive when they see all these costs and all these fees and fines? Are they going to think it's for safety, or are they going to think it's a money grab? The other point I want to mention is class action lawsuits, and that's the big issue with all this. All these potential violations and violations that are here, it leads to class action lawsuits. And I just want to explain a little bit what a class action suit is all about. It involves many violations, okay, that are put together in one class, because we're not concerned about the individual that's going to sue us over a $110 ticket, okay, and maybe some extra cost associated with that. What we're concerned about is the class action suit, and that's where that attorney comes in that's looking to make money, okay? There's no doubt about that. And what they do, they sue on class action suits, they make a class out of it, and every violation that was issued that's in violation of what you did is included in that class. And guess what? That means just about every violation. Because if you're wrong on any of these points I brought out earlier, okay, any one, it doesn't take all of them, it just takes one that you invoke in this class action lawsuit. And guess who's going to get hit? The parish is going to get hit for this. You're involved. You are passing these ordinances. The sheriff isn't. I told him that from the beginning. That, hey, if they could do it without us, we wouldn't have a problem with it because we wouldn't be exposed. We also talked about them perhaps going through the state legislature to get it passed, and that leaves the parish government out of it. We had no problem whatsoever with them doing that, but they didn't choose that route because I think it had been hard for them to get it passed. They chose this route to go through this council. Now, one of the cases, of course, I cited to you was the case involving the city of New Orleans, where they got hit for like $26 million, I believe it was. And then also that attorney has also filed a suit in federal court so that he could collect on that, saying it was an unlawful taking of property alleging constitutional and other federal law violations, okay? That same attorney has also filed suit against the city of Baton Rouge. That attorney was a plaintiff, was actually a plaintiff and the attorney for the class action suit in the city of New Orleans. You don't think he's looking at it? In my opinion, I cited several cases. Not that it doesn't matter what the outcome was or anything like that, but I cited several cases to show you, yes, there are these class action suits that are out there. Attorneys are looking for that because it means dollars to them. Okay, let's be honest. They could say, yeah, I want to protect the innocent person that the government has taken away their rights or infringed on their rights. But guess what? They're not there for that. They're not pro bono. They're doing it for the money. Another thing I see is that in the Blue Line Agreement, there's no provision that the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government can do annual audits or any kind of audits of their books, okay? And since they're part of this, I really think that needs to be in there. The other thing I saw, and this is minor things, but I just want to bring it to your attention, is the ambiguities I see when the ordinances go in effect, okay? In other words, it says 1 hour before school opens for the children and 1 hour after school closes. I think it needs to be more specificity in there. And that always was a question in my mind when I was drafting my ordinances, that I really think it needs to be sit down with Mr. Martin to go through it as far as when these schools actually open and close, to put a time period together or put some language that's going to specify when it's clear as to when they come in effect. Because when they open for school, guess what? That could be at 7:30 in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. So that means they go in effect an hour. Do you want these ordinances in effect 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock? Is that what's intended? When does school close? Is it the end of the bell? When the schools, or is it when the last student leaves the grounds at 8 o'clock that night? These are all questions. These are legitimate questions and things that need to just be worked out better to better have a set of ordinance that you can do something with it. In closing, I've been practicing law nearly 40 years now, okay? I have never had a situation where I had a client that I so strongly recommended not to do something on so many different bases. This is the first time. And one of the problems is of course, the class action suit. If you violate the Constitution, Louisiana Constitution, you violate the Charter, you violate other laws, you get whammed. And also, there's no indemnity and hold harmless provisions by the parish, by anyone. And also, I see some ambiguities and clarifications that are needed. I strongly recommend to this council not to approve these ordinances because of the exposure you leave to Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government. Remember, this is not a vote against the sheriff. This is not a vote against the DA. It's not a vote against anybody else. It's not a vote against the concept of establishing civil speeding violations and penalties. It's a vote against these ordinances that were submitted. Because I submit to you, they can be a lot better. A lot better. So with that, I close, and I hope that you make the right decision tonight. Councilman Gidry, do you have anything else?
I don't. Our parish attorney wanted to address the council.
Good evening, Julius Abel, Parish Attorney for Terrebonne Parish, Consolidated Government. I just want to give a little point of clarity on the whole scheme. This is an ordinance and a program that was not requested by President Dove or any one of you. Never called me. None of y'all ever said, hey, we want to implement fines, we want to raise money. So the parish gets no money out of this. This is a program and an ordinance structure that was created in order to create fines, which the money is going to somebody else. I have not been in the meetings, a lot of the meetings, so I don't know all the detail. I do know I was not consulted, and the first thing I want to bring up, I don't know where he came in asking me to appoint the district attorney's office as a judge, as somebody, one of the attorneys at the district attorney's office as a judge. I have a couple of problems with that. Number one, I do not, under the charter, under my duties, have any appointment authority. And I'm asking you to turn it down tonight just for that. Okay? I have zero appointment authority to go appoint an employee or another attorney at the district attorney's office. Where do I get that authority from? The only person that can do that appointment is the parish president, and has to be ratified by y'all. I don't have the authority to go select a judge at the district attorney's office. Second of all, as you well know, the parish government is currently in litigation with the district attorney over coastal litigation. Okay, I'm asking you, you cannot put me in this predicament. All right? I am the parish attorney for the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, and every one of you sitting there. That's just who I represent. Okay? I represent both the parish and the council and its agencies and departments. Another thing, the problem I have with it, and with all due respect to Mr. Ernie, who is a very fine lawyer in person, but we have two assistant parish attorneys who are also assistant district attorneys. I do not, Danny, want to appoint anybody in the district attorney's office as a judge. I have no authority to do that. And I'm asking y'all to protect, and that has to be taken care of, okay? That cannot go through tonight on this ordinance. Now, this is what I want to address. Just so y'all understand what y'all doing, and my job is to protect y'all. Mr. DeGate has opined that this set of ordinances has constitutional problems. That's his legal opinion. It's in violation of the Constitution. That means when he says it's in violation of the Constitution, that means that if an individual is given a ticket, that person's constitutional rights, civil rights, are now being violated. Now, listen to what I'm saying. When that person, Mr. DeGate, is opining that the ordinances as presented are unconstitutional and they're not in accordance with the Constitution, what he's telling you is the way they are written, in his opinion, they are violating persons' rights. Okay. Now, so you have, when there's a constitutional violation, U.S. Constitution, state constitution, when there's a constitutional violation, there is a mechanism under federal law for somebody to sue, and that is to sue the parish and to sue you individually. Okay? And that is called the 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, Civil Rights Act. The 1983 Civil Rights Act is used to enforce violations of the Constitution. That act comes with both injunctive relief, it comes with damages, and it comes with attorney fees. Okay? So, if you have a violation of the state constitution or the federal constitution, what normally comes in, the lawyers will come in and they're going to say, if it violates under the color of law, okay, if it violates due process is one of the big things in these cases. If they come up with anything that says it violates due process, Fifth Amendment as applied through the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. So where does that lead, and how does this all fit in? You as the governmental body, as the council, pass these ordinances. These ordinances have the force of law. Okay? Now, who are the decision makers? What's evaluated in the 1983 action? It's falls under the U.S. Supreme Court decision of Monell. And under Monell, when you pass laws, ordinances, it looks at who were the decision makers and the policy makers. In this particular case, I'm going to tell you who the decision makers and the policy makers would be. Number one, every one of you individually and as a council, you are passing these laws, okay, these ordinances. And Mr. DeGate's telling you that he thinks they're unconstitutional. The parish president, because he's got to ultimately approve if the ordinances are passed, all right? And possibly anybody else that participates in the act knowing that there's a constitutional violation. I will tell you that there are cases that have found these ordinances unconstitutional. There are cases that have found them constitutional depending on how they're drafted. It is pretty well settled throughout America what has to be done, because some states won't even let these ordinances go. State law stopped it. But I'm saying the constitutional parameters of the law has been set forth by the federal courts and state courts, because they have been challenged both in federal and state courts on this constitutionality. Normally, on a Monell claim, if somebody alleges that our ordinances, the parish ordinances, are unconstitutional, and they sue the individual councilman and they sue the parish president, you would have a chance to get out of the lawsuit, because if it's brought as part of your official duties, the courts will look at it and say, well, look, they were in doing their official duties, and they should not be sued. Only the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government in its capacity as the local government. However, here's the big problem with this. Individuals, which is every one of you individually, becomes potentially personally liable if you participate in a knowingly unconstitutional scheme or in passing these ordinances. If you've been advised and told by legal counsel that there's unconstitutional issues, and you you do not follow the advice of your legal counsel on this, you're exposing yourself to potentially personal liability. The question then ultimately becomes, if you do not follow the advice of legal counsel and you become personally liable, is the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government responsible for you individually? Okay, that's the next issue. And I will tell you that issue comes up. It comes up, and it has come up in cases before. So what I'm saying is, it's one thing to pass something as the government. It's another thing when you know that somebody's telling you, hey, this is not legal, to still go ahead and do it. There is, if you get sued personally, under Section 1983, you would have what they call limited qualified immunity. You could ask the court for that. But what the court's going to come in and say, the first thing the court's going to come in and do is they're going to look at the ordinances and they're going to say, who advised on this? Who drafted this? That's the first thing they're going to look at. Failure to follow legal advice. First of all, let me back up a second. Even following legal advice does not necessarily mean that you would be exempt or granted the immunity under personal actions under Section 1983. But I will tell you that we researched it, that the case law says under 1983, Section 1983, if you disregard the legal advice, you have no leg to stand on to come in and say, if you're sued personally, that you want the discretionary immunity because you failed to follow the legal advice. Now, Mr. DeGate was hired by y'all to evaluate these ordinances. I'm here to explain to you the other side defense if you don't follow his legal advice. And I'm going to tell you I'm going to tell you the cases, but there's plenty of them. It's the Bonacour case at 134 F3rd 245 and York versus Rickey 14 Fed Appendix 628. You can go pull those cases and you will see where the courts address when a governmental body or a person does not follow and totally disregards the legal advice of legal counsel. You're putting yourself and you're exposing yourself personally, which you ultimately, a court may not decide that a federal court may not decide that this government is not responsible for your actions because you are trumping over the advice of what legal counsel, what we're here to do. Now, this gets into some highly, when you start getting into constitutional issues, you get into some highly technical issues, but Mr. DeGate appears to have vetted it. So, two things I'm asking. Number one, you better consider the advice that I'm giving you concerning these 1983 actions. Number two is I do not have any authority, and because of other issues, asking you that you not pass this tonight. I don't, if y'all gonna work it out, if something's gonna be worked out, but I cannot be put in a position to start appointing a hearing officer at the district attorney's office. That's not my duties. I think it's a clear violation of the Home Rule Charter. With all due respect to the sheriff and Mr. Dodd and whoever else was involved with it, okay? I don't know who told him to do that, but I didn't tell him to do it. And I've been practicing law 36 years, and I think I have a pretty good reputation at what I do. And I think Mr. Dodd will vouch for that.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Thank you.
Sheriff Saunier?
All right. Well, thank y'all for hearing this. But I'm going to say a couple things. One, would we agree levies do good to protect the parish? Yes or no? Everybody agree? Has there been lawsuits as a result of trying to do something good?
Yes.
Yes. We all got elected. We got our constituents to protect. Yep. There is 1.5 million we get to help run the jail, but it's not my jail. But I can do it a lot more efficient than privatizing it. That's where that comes from. That's where I run the jail. On the Constitution, on page 23G, parish officials and school boards not affected. No home rule charter or plan of government shall contain any provision affected a school board or the offices of the district attorney, sheriff, assessor, clerk of court, and coroner, which is inconsistent with a constitutional law. Home rule charter does not affect the sheriff. An ordinance, which we agree to indemnify, that's not a problem. But the bottom line is, this is not no secret. What we're trying to do, bottom line is, statistics show with the programs we're going to run is going to slow speeders down by 82% in the school zones. 82%. I've given y'all the numbers, and I can put the slideshow. We can put the slideshow up if you don't mind. The PowerPoint. Do y'all have a clicker, or are you able to do that? And I'll mention about the jail. Y'all realize, as far as liability is concerned, we take the bulk of that liability at that jail. Everything our officers do in there. So, yep, there's some shared things that happen in there, but the bottom line is we take the bulk of that liability Mr. Bilbet will talk a little bit about that. But thing is, about 7 months ago, I think I brought this to the council as far as a concern of safety, and I've identified some problems. And the numbers are there. And I've given y'all the numbers. I'm coming up with a cost-effective way, a solution to fixing a problem in school zones. As council members of the welfare and the safety of our communities, that's our responsibility, as it is mine, to try to do something about it. So we've come up with the numbers. We had a study conducted, and there are the numbers. I think everybody received those numbers. There's no hidden agenda about all of this infamous money. If one person was more skeptical about it when it first started, it was me. I vetted and I had concerns. I consulted with my attorneys. I consulted with my federal attorney. We consulted with everything to look at it, this constitutionality. It is constitutional. The ones that tend to be sued, and about New Orleans, the problem with New Orleans, they had no due process. That was the first thing we squared away when it came to the legal aspect, was a due process. New Orleans had public works running it with absolutely no due process. That was the first thing we ironed out, was a due process. It's not the DA's office as a judge. The DA's office is going to mitigate it just like any other traffic ticket, which we do every single day. That practice. It goes to the DA, and just like you have a pay fine date, if you're not satisfied with that, you get to go see a judge. Guess what? It's not the DA that's going to be the judge. It can be assigned to the 32nd Judicial. So that's false. That's absolutely false. Now, I've given y'all the numbers, and we've taken a look at it. If you don't mind, click the slide. Okay. Why we're doing this? Well, we're not trying to put a police officer behind a tree and try to catch people violating. There is going to be a full educational rollout, like I said before. One, we're going to educate the public. This is long before any kind of enforcement action is done. The school board is going to be an educational rollout, working with the social media. With social media brochures, this educational rollout will be completed before any type of enforcement. And the first month is going to be a warning. The first month's going to be a complete warning. So this is not no secret money. I can tell you this. The numbers and statistics we've looked from Fulton County and a lot of other areas, they slowed people down in school zones by 82%. What is a child's life's worth? We're gonna do our job, worry about if we're gonna get sued every day? If that's the case, I sure as heck wouldn't have ran for sheriff, because I've had more lawsuits against me at the beginning. But the bottom line, I work for the people of Terrebonne Parish, and I deserve, and they deserve, a safe environment so they can go to school every day and got to worry about somebody getting run over or hit. That's what our children deserve, and we owe it to them. If you don't mind, flip the slide. Okay, again, I'm going to reemphasize. When the enforcement action, there's 3 signs before you ever enter any school zone. Adequate amount of distance provided by DOTD standards. 3 signs before you even move to a school zone. 1, speed enforced by camera. This is how fast you're physically going. And then that's when actually an enforcement goes. So there's 3 signs that's going to move any direction into these school zones. Speed camera enforcement will be only enforced during the school hours. That's it. They already said something about an hour before, hour afterwards. We're going exactly prescribed by DOTD with school signs and times. That's what we're going by. There's no magic. It's the recommendations of what they're going. Much like the school signs are flashing now, that's what we're doing. So there's no mystery there either. This is not a trick. We're trying to simply fix a problem. We've worked with Mr. DeGate. We worked with the attorneys on this, and I don't understand. The things that we added to it, it was recommended. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was brought up to Mr. DeGate to put that last statement in that ordinance. They asked us to put that in there, so we did. We thought it was pretty dumb, but that's what they wanted, so we did it. We've been trying to compromise and make something happen. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to come up here, but I promise you, I am not going to stop because the children deserve it. I will not stop. And you're going to get used to seeing me. And you can play all this. I realize why I hate politics. because all that damn circus we heard earlier before all of this, because we're trying to do something good. Heaven forbid we didn't have this to build levees, because we worried about getting sued for everything we do. But I think they got to share lawsuits with all of that coming, and they're still dealing with it today. But are we concerned with the safety, or what's the greater good? Or are we worried about doing our job every day if we're gonna get sued? What are we worried about? I'm gonna do my job, and I'm gonna protect our community 100% as much as I can. If you don't mind, flip the slide. Save Kids World, these are statistics. Unintentional pedestrians are the 5th leading cause of injuries-related deaths in the United States from the ages of 5 to 19. That's a statistic. And last but not least, if you don't mind, flip the slide. So like I said, every day parents deliver at schools the one thing that's most precious to them. That's our children. It is our responsibility to protect them. That's what we signed up to do for the welfare of the community and the people, and the children not exempt. I told y'all last time, 20 years from now, I'll be sitting on the porch, and one of the children we protect is going to be running the show. And I hope they have the foresight to protect the future, because it needs to be continued. Mr. Dove?
My name is Bill Dodd. My address is 100 Ramey Boulevard, Suite A, Houma, Louisiana, and I'm Sheriff Saulnier's attorney. In fact, I've been the attorney for the sheriff's office since Sheriff Rosan's came back in 1984, so I've served in that position a long time. I'd like to say at the outset that I was a little disturbed by some remarks that President Dove made, because I'm not aware of any backroom deals about this ordinance. I certainly have not asked anybody on this council to vote for it. 1 or 2 people have expressed questions about it, and to my knowledge, Sheriff Saulnier may have explained it, but nobody on this council has promised to vote one way or the other, nor have I asked anybody, nor to my knowledge has anything wrong been done during this particular process. And so for someone who's been practicing law, it seems like everybody wants to say how long they've been practicing law. I don't want to say I've been practicing law 50 years, but I have, right at it. And I've heard and seen a lot of things during that time, but I resent that remark, and I think it's a shame that it's directed at Sheriff Saulnier, and to that I take great opposition too. Let me just say about the process that's going on with this. Sheriff Saulnier appeared before y'all to talk about this ordinance, what it meant to him, but perhaps most importantly, what it meant to parents, school teachers, and of course, what we consider our greatest asset of this community. That's our children. Whether they be your actual child, your grandparent, your grandchild, or a friend's child, a neighbor's child. That is what this ordinance is all about. We met with Mr. DeGate on at least 4, 5 occasions to talk about this ordinance, to try and vet it out, to come up with a workable solution that we could present to the council. Now, I see Mr. Hebert looking at me. Nobody ever told me to meet with Mr. Hebert. From the very beginning, it was my understanding, and I'm not saying anything wrong about Jules, but I'm just saying, evidently, Mr. DeGate was the point person for the parish in this. So when someone says we didn't meet with the parish attorney, we were never given that opportunity or asked to. It was always Mr. DeGate. Mr. DeGate's a fine attorney, and Mr. Hebert is too. But that was not the case here. We did everything we could to look at ordinances across this state that Blue Line has an interest in, be it in Shreveport and other cities throughout. And we tried to model an ordinance that complied with those particular cities throughout Louisiana that had this ordinance in effect. Now, I know the argument that keeps coming up, these were cities and not a parish, and it is true that if this ordinance were to be passed, then this would be the first parish in the state of Louisiana where a sheriff is involved and not a city police force. And we have tried to work around that to show why that we believe this ordinance has been correct with regard to the sheriff. For example, let's talk about one of the things that came up, money. Not the money that would be collected from fines, but the money that would be handled in connection with revenue that would be derived from this ordinance. As you all know, the sheriff collects millions of dollars every year in taxes for the parish. He collects fines, he collects cost, and that was one of the things we talked about with Mr. DeGate, that the sheriff is empowered to do that. The ordinance as it was presented by Mr. DeGate wanted the parish CFO to have the money that was derived from this ordinance. It was never a question about whether the money went to Blue Line and then to the parish, but there was a question about whether the parish ultimately would get their hands on it and then give it to the sheriff, okay, or whomever, in accordance with the way that if there was revenue, it would be divided. So we looked at that and we said, hey, the sheriff can collect it, but what we will do, and I think it's expressed in the ordinance, is that we will open our books, and there was a remark a minute ago that perhaps they, quote, the parish wouldn't know what monies were collected. We were going to open our books not once a year, but every month and allow someone from Candace's office to come in and review revenues that were collected and how they were distributed so there'd be no question about anything. We wanted to be as transparent as possible in this. Nobody wanted to hide anything about this ordinance. And so we did that. There was a question about, and let me jump back just a minute. I heard a figure that the district attorney was going to make 20% in connection with this ordinance, okay? That was one thing that was talked about early on. Mr. DeGate was correct in that whoever the administrator, hearing officer, is with regard to this ordinance cannot be guaranteed a certain percentage of it, because if they are, obviously, it would give them an incentive to rule against someone. There's nothing wrong with the administrator being paid. He just can't be guaranteed anything. There's no guarantee in this ordinance, and there is no guarantee in any secret agreement that the district attorney is going to get X percentage of this ordinance. If he is the hearing officer, he will be compensated on an hourly basis for whatever work he does, whoever he appoints after we believe that the parish attorney could appoint him. Now, if that's a problem, that's something to work out. I'm not going to argue tonight with Mr. Hebert about that, but I will say that we thought that that was a workable solution, that if the parish attorney was involved in the appointment of the hearing officer, then that would meet the constitutional question about the home rule charter. Now, if Mr. Hebert disagrees with that, then maybe it is something to look at. But that's not a killer for this particular ordinance, okay? And I want to say that tonight. I know Mr. DeGate spent a great deal of time on this, but so have we. And we brought in a member of one of the largest firms in New Orleans who deals with governmental matters and constitutional matters, because we wanted someone else to look at this to see if we were right from a constitutional standpoint, whether this ordinance met constitutional muster. And Mr. McCormick's firm, the Irwin Fritchie firm in New Orleans, who has hundreds of partners, felt that it did. And he did help draft this ordinance. I can't tell you why you know, there's such a great disagreement over this, but we did do our due diligence in trying to reach a solution here that's not for the sheriff, that's not for the DA, but what's best for the parish. Now, I think it's horrible to come up here and talk about this ordinance and talk about it being bad because the sheriff may direct or may receive some revenue from it. Just like y'all receive revenues from different areas. I mean, you know, if that's the argument about this, then we all got a problem in government. If we make money off of certain things, just like in the district court now, in the criminal court fund. I mean, the judges, the DA, indigent defenders, others make money off of fines. So I think that's a bad argument that's being made. Blue Line, as far as I know, and the research that I've done on them is a reputable firm. Mr. Gate will tell you tonight that he doesn't know about them. Well, we've been talking about this for at least 6 months, that I believe, since Mr. Gate's been involved. Everybody's had a chance to look at Blue Line and determine whether or not they're a solid firm or not. And I think they are. The fact that they operate here in the state of Louisiana and all over the South indicates to me that they're a solid firm and they're a good firm to do business with. Class action lawsuits. Let's talk about the New Orleans lawsuit. The sheriff talked about it a little bit. One of the biggest problems in New Orleans was in that particular lawsuit was that law enforcement was not the collector of the monies that came into the city of New Orleans. Now, granted, the city of New Orleans has a charter, okay, but they didn't follow it, okay? They allowed the Department of Public Works, I believe, to collect the fines and the monies, and that violated their charter, which led to the class action lawsuit that we see. Once they corrected a few things, as unfortunately, as many of you know, and I know because I've gotten tickets in New Orleans by cameras, they're all over the city of New Orleans. They're not in school zones, and we're not talking about that here. Nor are we ever talking about expanding it beyond where it is, because if you wanted to expand it, guess what? We'd have to be right back here in front of you again, okay? Lawyers can differ on so many things, and I'm not saying that Jules and I'm not saying that Vince are wrong because of the argument they presented. I'm just saying I disagree with it, just like they disagree with what I'm telling you right now. Again, if there is something that needs to be tweaked, then we'd look at it. But we've worked. It comes to a point, and the reason the ordinance was introduced and we're here tonight is that we've talked and we've talked and we've changed and we've changed and we have done everything we thought we were supposed to do and could do to present an ordinance to you tonight that could be passed. No one here has a hidden agenda. Certainly no one here is trying to trick anybody. We have done our due diligence, and we believe that, as I said, the ordinance is here. If a counsel, any lawyer, gives you bad advice, okay, then you got a problem, okay? Just because another lawyer disagrees with a lawyer who's trying to present something else to you doesn't mean that I'm wrong, or it doesn't mean that somebody else who might appear before you in opposition to what your attorney may have said. What was left out of that argument was, yeah, they might look, a court may look to determine whether or not that you as counsel people voted against what your legal counsel said you shouldn't do. But guess what? If your legal counsel was wrong and you voted against it, then you did the right thing, okay? And that's why we're here tonight. We think we've done everything right. We think we've done our due diligence. I don't think anybody on this council doubts or has a question about the sincerity of the sheriff in coming before you and saying what he said. And I don't think anybody on this council disagrees with the well-intentioned fact of this ordinance, okay? We stand by it. We reached a point, as I said, it was time to move forward rather than to talk, and we believe we're correct. I'm sorry that I sound like I'm pointing a finger at Vince or Jules, but I'm not. I know Vince did a lot of work because I was in those meetings with him. In the last meeting with Councilman Guidry. Everybody left that meeting, and I thought we had a workable solution. And the changes that were made were given to Vince to look at. We never heard anything back. We never heard anything back until the argument tonight. But again, I appreciate you allowing us to say what we've said. We believe that the ordinance should be passed. If there's some changes, then that's your obligation as a council to do that. But we're here in good faith, and we're here because we think we've done everything we can do to present this ordinance for you tonight so it can be passed.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd. And Mr. Hebert, I know you wanted a quick response. Okay.
With all due respect to the sheriff, I just want to read what's in the ordinance about the hearing officer and about the hearing officer ultimately being the adjudicator, the person who's going to judge. This is what's in the ordinance. I'm going to read directly from it. Hearing officer adjudicator shall mean a licensed attorney from the Terrebonne Parish District Attorney's Office and designated by the Terrebonne Parish Attorney who meets the qualifications contained within this chapter and made available by the Terrebonne Parish District Attorney. Terrebonne Parish District Attorney under definition shall mean the attorney representing, the Terrebonne Parish Attorney shall mean the attorney representing the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government. District Attorney shall mean the District Attorney of the Parish of Terrebonne, State of Louisiana. Administrative adjudications of violations shall be conducted by a hearing officer from the Terrebonne Parish District Attorney's Office who meets the qualifications contained within the said chapter, the said District Attorney's Office being designated by the Terrebonne Parish Attorney. In conducting administrative adjudications of the violations, the hearing officer shall have the following functions and powers: to administer oaths, to require attendance, to give testimony, to adjudicate violations. I'm not going to read them all, but there's 8 of them. So nobody's made anything up. That's what's in the ordinance. I did not participate in it. I do not know why y'all put me in there, Mr. Dyer. I mean, what I'm saying is I'm trying to figure out why was I put in here to designate a member of the District Attorney's Office. That's all I'm saying. And I'm asking you, this cannot be passed. I'm telling you as the chief legal advisor that this has got a constitutional issue. That just on that alone. And I cannot be put in that position. Now, y'all want to go back and work it out? It doesn't bother me whatsoever. Yeah. But I'm asking you, just on that basis alone, to table this tonight, go back and redo it. I'll tell you another thing. The parish president did make a good suggestion, okay, on something so complex. And I will tell you, I have looked at the other ordinances. Bill's right. There are other jurisdictions in the state of Louisiana have it. Nobody has an ordinance set up for a law enforcement to come in and do what's being done here. Because this is not for him. This is a setup by you. You don't have to do this. Nobody's telling you you have to pass these ordinances. You are making that decision. So what I'm saying is, go look at Lafayette. Do you see it's made up like, it's done like this? No. Go read New Orleans. It's not done like this. Go read Baton Rouge. No one of them is close to this. Okay. So what I'm saying is, on this basis alone, I'm asking you to protect me as your chief legal advisor. Okay. This has to be tabled tonight. It can be, I don't care what y'all ultimately do on it. That's not my decision. I've given you my spiel on it. I've told you about the constitutional issues. And I do think maybe President Dove's got the right idea. Ship it off to the Attorney General to make sure that y'all all protected. Okay? You don't want to believe me? You don't want to believe Vince? That's fine. That's what you're paying us for. Not to believe us, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe you are paying us to believe us. That's fine. But that's our advice, is to give you advice. And I would say, let's ship it off. Let's let Vince ship it to the Attorney General. Let him send the Home Rule Charter. Let him send the constitutional issues. Let the Attorney General opine on it. But as far as this stuff about me appointing somebody, y'all, every one of y'all know better than that. Y'all know that that's not legal. Y'all know I don't have the authority to do it. It's in direct violation of Article 4 of the Home Rule Charter. Okay? And I'm asking you not to pass this tonight or not alone. Go fix it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Now, Mr. Roger Dale, you filled out a speaker card, but you didn't come up in public. Did you still want to speak? I will give you 3 minutes if you'd like to speak.
Yes, sir, I'd like to speak.
Okay.
My name is Roger Dale DeHart. I'm currently serving on the Terrebonne Parish School Board. My address is 661 Bide Lodge Road, Houma, Louisiana, 70363. In the month of January, our board considered this issue. And I've been serving, I'm not an attorney, and I always look at advice from our attorneys and anybody else's attorneys giving advice. And I'll weigh the merits. I was the only person absent. Our school board unanimously voted, and I was absent. So that's why I came tonight to voice my opinion. I'm going to do everything in my power to serve the people of Terrebonne Parish, not just the district I represent, for the safety of our children. I've heard many things for the first time tonight, and the first observation, and listen, I want to protect you and me and all of the constituents that we both serve. I've been having a pleasure of serving more than 30 years, and I hope to serve 4 more years after this term, and I'll be termed out. But that's not the issue. I've always kept the kids' interests and the safety. What I experienced as a school board representative, I experienced transportation where the safety, and this is what I think our sheriff is trying to do now, protect the safety of our children and everybody that goes in front of our campuses, is that we used to have gasoline buses. We found a way, the almighty dollar, to get diesel buses. We finally was the first ones to have air-conditioned buses because of health conditions. And yet with this COVID-19, there's so many parents bringing their children to and from school to try and protect their children. They do sacrifices. So I'm here not to tell the board, the council, how to vote. I just want you to know my version. I really support this issue, and if there are terms that needs to be worked out, I truly respect all parties' interests to serve the public of Terrebonne Parish and to make sure our school zone, and the most valuable thing I learned tonight, what's being proposed tonight, is for school zones. And I'm glad I heard that for myself, because I had reservations whenever I first heard it, but whenever I have reservations on any issue, I research it, and I do go to the sources that can give me the accurate information. I still think, legally, there's a way to make this happen, and by the sheriff's own words tonight, we have time to implement this program. And the first year is going to be a trial thing to where, you know, there are not going to be all kind of consequences. But I'm not going to sit back as a taxpayer in Terrebonne Parish to think everything revolves around money. And I want to protect this parish as best as I can. But we have to make choices, strong choices. And my choice is tonight to support whatever endeavor y'all can come up with to help the sheriff accomplish safety school zones in Terrebonne Parish. Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Roger Dale.
Hey, can I say one thing?
Public hearing is closed. He filled out a speaker card. That's why I allowed him to speak. Ms. Domang.
Thank you. And I believe we learned a lot tonight. I thank everyone who came up and spoke. And my issue with this is not necessarily the policy, it's the process. And so, and for the sake of transparency, I want to be 100% transparent. I never attended a secret meeting about this, although I'm sure there were secret meetings going on. I never attended any meetings about this. This is the first time I've even heard from legal about this. And so back a few months ago, the sheriff did send us a ordinance, a draft of an ordinance. I wasn't quite sure where it came from, but I reviewed it and I sent the sheriff all of what I felt was some issues that I had. And the sheriff did put every single thing that I saw would be a conflict back into the ordinance. That I truly appreciate that, Sheriff Saunier. However, after listening to our legal advice tonight, I do think that we should look at this further, and I feel as though we should concur with our legal and send this to the Attorney General. Will that happen tonight? Probably not. They'll probably vote for it tonight, but I do think that we should look at this deeper, and we should look at this longer. I know that it's very, very important. I think it's important for safety of our children. However, in the meantime, I think that we could also look at other avenues. We have a speed hump program. Why don't we look at putting a speed hump in front of every single single elementary school, or every school that's not on a state highway? I feel like there's a lot of things that we could be doing in the interim as we get this right, and I want to make sure this is right. And so I am going to concur with our legal that we get an AG opinion in order to move this forward. So thank you.
Mr. Michel.
Thank you. I guess one of my rhetorical questions is, we've been looking at this for months. Why haven't we already sent it off for a legal opinion? But let me go through my notes here. First of all, President Dove said that Mr. Dodd works for the sheriff, so we can't count on what he says. Well, Mr. DeGate and Mr. Hebert work for Mr. Dove, okay? They do not work for this council. In name they do, but we don't have an independent attorney who can advise us. We have people who advise the parish president. And, you know, this is sadly a Terrebonne Parish political issue. And a lack of trust is a problem here, okay? So this council doesn't, I've been begging for the last 4 years that we get our own legal counsel, and we failed to do that. So we don't have an independent person to advise us on this, okay? And Mr. Dove said it beautifully when he said that he's saying and doing and vetoing, etc., all of this to quote, cover for Gordon Dove, end quote. He should have added the word politically, but he didn't, okay? And then someone, and I don't know who it was, referred to as the other side. I thought we were all on the same side here trying to serve the people of this parish. And in the process of discussing this and all this millions of dollars that the sheriff's going to make and the inaccurately, at the very least, interpreted money that the DA's office is going to make, how much will Blue Line make and collect if we reduce speeding in the school zones to where there was no more? And the answer to that is they would make zero. That's the objective. The objective is not about the money, at least not from the sheriff's office point of view. And we've already, Mr. Vincent, and I don't know him well, okay? And but you know, I certainly have nothing against him. But to me, he lost his credibility when he said that this amounted to donating money. Okay, unless somebody says, okay, well, I'm going to go and speed in school zones so I can give extra money and the sheriff's office can collect it. This is no way, no how, no interpretation could view this as donating money. You know, I just really have a problem with that statement, okay? So the question came up, what is the public going to think with all of these fees? We hope they think, let's not speed in school zones. And we talk about someone mentioned class action lawyers are doing this for the money. Sure, they want to help people, but they're ultimately doing it for the money. But let's not forget here that the attorneys that we're hearing tonight are in here doing this for the money as well, okay? Certainly they have an objective, whatever that might be, but they're here doing this for the money. If they weren't getting paid, I doubt they would be here. This is not the first time I hear the scare tactic that we're going to be sued personally if we don't listen to advice of counsel. Boy, if we had to listen to the advice of counsel of everything we did, we would do very little. And I contend that maybe we had listened to the advice of counsel too often. Okay, so if I don't follow advice of legal counsel who's appointed and gets a sense of job security from the parish president, then I'm personally liable. That's the chance I'll take. Okay. And it's not a question of disregarding the advice of legal counsel. It's a question of disbelieving or disagreeing with the advice of legal counsel. And with those things being said, I would like to make a motion to move this ordinance forward with one change. And that's certainly the one thing that I think Mr. Hebert was absolutely correct about. And the one change is in section C on the bottom of page 5. The statement needs to read, the district attorney's office being designated by the Terrebonne Parish district attorney, not the parish attorney. Let the district attorney appoint one of his staff members to do this job. Mr. Hebert is absolutely right. He has no authority to appoint someone in the district attorney's office who works for Mr. Waits. Mr. Waits needs to do that appointment. So let's change that, and that's a minor change. We can do it on the fly. And so we change it to the district attorney's office being designated by the Terrebonne Parish district attorney. And that's my motion.
First of all, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Well, Mr. Hebert, it doesn't have a second. I understand, Mr. Hebert, but it does not have a second, so the motion is died. All right. Now, Mr. Carl Harding.
First of all, I would like to say to the citizens in Terrebonne Parish that there is hope. I try my best to look at the facts and represent the people. I've seen two sides come and throw flares and actually call names and in all kind of fashions, and all in the name of the kids, all in the name of life. But I hear you talk about money and backdoor politics and who's right and who's wrong. I remember graduating, I think, right, 1973, and the song was out, I think it was School's Out for Summer. Now, we're making a big argument, and we got some time. I like the sheriff. I like what's the ideology of what's presented. And if you hold on to the realistic, number one theme in what we're discussing here is the lives. And I think somewhere down the line, we done put too much politics in what we got to be doing up here. Too many attitudes and squazolas, this, that, and the other. Sure, we understand. Every time somebody come up here and present something to us, every time a salesman come to our door, that's a sales pitch. That's two sides. And what's understood, each side has a representative. But then, who's on the sides of the lives of the people that we're actually talking about? Of course, what is the value of a life? There's no value of a life. We have speeding problems all over Terrebonne Parish. I swear to God, I'm not part of no plot. Y'all must be on something else different from what I am on, 'cause, you know what I mean, really? Again, to the people of Terrebonne Parish, there is a hope. Now, one solid thing that I would agree with, because school is out for summer, I like to do that with you, Mike. Me and Mike go back, you kind of the same age, we do a song thing. We got time. I'm not saying go against this. It was said by both sides. We have an opportunity here. I can't see how all these high-paid intellectual lawyers can have meetings and can come before this council with a solution, which amounts to a bunch of filibustering. Now anybody want to be on my side to get a solution, is y'all guys get together, get a solution. We're going to stop the speeding, not just in the school zones throughout Terrebonne Parish, in my neighborhood with them 3 charges and whatever they're driving up in my neighborhood. Let's settle the problem. Quit arguing. That's what I got to say. Facts. Thank you, Mr. Martin, for coming here. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Babin.
Yeah, you know, I guess this is like a courtroom, and you got 2 attorneys, one on each side, and they each pleading their case. And each case was presented quite well here tonight. The one thing that sticks in my mind is Jules's passion on the fact that he doesn't have the authority to appoint somebody in the district attorney's office, okay? So, and I watched your passion on that, Mr. Hebert, and I appreciate that, okay? I agree with Councilman Hardig just got through saying here. Too much was talked about money here tonight, all right? If the parish is part of this, are we in favor of it? Kind of sounded like that tonight, all right? So if the parish gets their share, then maybe we can work all this stuff out. I think it's sad that it had to get personal between a number of people here. I think it's sad that the parish president did not stay to listen to this discussion, but he's represented here, so that's fair enough. But we talk about the Attorney General. Listen, I don't want to hold this up any longer than it's been held up already. But I think in the spirit of, it was also said that this would be the first one in the state with a parish, not just in the city. With that being said, I want it to be the first, but I want it to be right. I hate to do this, but I am going to make a motion that we table this tonight and that the 2 sides get together, because none of us are lawyers up here, okay? What you talked about tonight was a lot of legal things that we don't understand. So do I believe Jules? Do I believe the sheriff? I believe both of y'all in this particular case, both sides, as we talk about. It shouldn't be sides, like Carly said. This should be for all of us, okay? I need to ask a question before I make the motion from both sides. How long would it take for us to come up with a solution to the comments that Mr. DeGate made tonight, and us send this to the Attorney General's office and get an approval on it, and then get back to us? Is 30 days, a month? I don't know. I'm asking. I'm going to ask Mr. Hebert, so please.
Okay, hold on, Mr.
I think that with the Attorney General, you could send it to the Attorney General. You can ask them to fast track it as soon as possible. They do have. You got to send it to them. You got the motion. You make the motion. You got to make the motion as a council, and that you send it to them, and you can ask them to fast track it. Both sides presented. I would. So I don't know what's their time, but they have people up there that can look at this. And,
okay.
And when you said, Mr. Babin, when you said Lafayette Parish is a parish, and it's not that it's Lafayette Parish. What was said was this is the first time that a sheriff has gotten involved in this in coming up with these type of ordinances. With that said, my main concern is the first time I saw this was when it was uploaded, and that's the first time I saw it, and I said there's no way that y'all can put me in this predicament to make me appoint some. I cannot do it.
We're not going to put you in that predicament.
Thank you.
Okay, and I understand that. But again, the legal department for Terrebonne Parish, represented by Mr. DeGate, who is more than a capable attorney, has been talking about this, has been in negotiations, if you will, with the other side. All I'm saying is before we send something to the Attorney General, do we feel that we, as a Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and the Sheriff's Department, can work out a better deal to come up with a better ordinance than what one side is saying is good and the other side is saying not good within the next 2 to 4 weeks? And then if we need to send it to the Attorney General after that, do it? I want to get some clarity here on where we can go. I don't want to vote on this tonight and then we go through the veto process, and then we go through the process of trying to either override the veto or not, and then nothing gets done. I want us to get the best document we can get. So I'm asking, will it take us 30 days to work out the deal? Bill, I'm asking you.
From the sheriff's standpoint, that would be acceptable, 30 days to try to come to a workable situation, conclusion that would be agreeable to both sides. And if it isn't, then send it to the Attorney General. But at the same time, the sheriff has no problem with that.
Okay. I mean, you see where I'm trying to go with this, okay? We have very intelligent people here that can work out this solution or this problem. I see Mr. DeGate wanted to say something again on my light, please.
Thank you, Councilman Babin. I agree with your suggestion, and I think that 30 days would be enough time for us to hopefully come together to present a joint set of ordinances at least, whether we agree on them or not.
Correct.
At least make a joint set of ordinances, and then if we still have issues, then it may be better to send it to the AG's office for opinion on that. And if it's okay, then you present them to pass them. If it's not, then we make further changes to satisfy the AG.
And Vince, that's what I'm trying to accomplish here, okay? But I see there's some other lights behind me. Well, if I make a substitute motion, we can discuss it if a second is done, correct?
Correct.
All right.
Okay.
All right. All right, we have a second on the motion. Okay. So again.
And the motion is to?
The motion is to table this for 30 days.
Okay.
I was trying to look up when our meetings would be.
During the 30 days, or is it going to be 28 days?
Well, there again, if our council clerk could tell us approximately 30 days when our next meeting would be, like the 23rd of June. That's what I'm trying to say. The next meeting.
Mr. Babin, would we table it till the committee meeting that Monday? Because we would be
Again, I'm no
introducing a
lawyer,
new
okay?
ordinance.
These Robert's Rules of Order things have changed on us so much, I'm not sure. Mr. Hebert, does it have to go to committee or to a full? We can't discuss it in committee.
What needs to be done is that the new ordinance or whatever the proposed ordinance, I think, Mr. Babin, what you're saying is try and work out a draft. I would say then send it to the Attorney General and let them vet it. That protects everybody. I don't understand listen, y'all should want the Attorney General. The Sheriff's Office should want the Attorney General. Okay, everybody. The sheriff. I didn't want to get into it, and I'm not going to do. I'm not trying to advise the sheriff, but the sheriff would be also a participant in a 1983 action in this case. So what I'm saying is, this protects everybody. Let the AG, let them come, let Bill and Vince come up with another draft. Then let that draft go to the Attorney General and let them tell us whether it's legal or not.
Jules, that's what I said just a minute ago.
And then
okay?
if it comes up, once it's said legal, they can bring it back to you.
That's what I said. I'd like to give my light to Mr. Trosclair for a second.
Thank you, Mr. Babin. And that's what I was going to say. What you say is what I said. Let's not put a time stamp on it other than when we get it back from the Attorney General. Then we bring it back to the council. Let's not put a time stamp on it because that may be 3 weeks, it may be 9 weeks, it may be 15 weeks. But when we get it back, if it's a workable, if the Attorney General says it's good, I guarantee you're gonna have 9 votes on it. So let's not go through this again. Let's get y'all guys together, put this thing together, and then whenever y'all get to the point of either an impasse or y'all all agree on everything at the same time, it's immaterial what's in that thing. It's what the sheriff wants. And if our attorneys are good with it, send it to the Attorney General. If he's good with it, you got 9 votes up here. It's a slam dunk. So I don't see why we can put a timestamp because we don't have no idea how long that process is going to take. Thank you.
Well,
okay.
Okay,
Mr.
listen.
Babin, you still have the light.
Yeah, listen, I was only using a time, and I agree with you, Steve. I was only using a time to try to move this forward, okay? We've been talking about it for 6 months now. There's been drafts going back and forth, people getting accused of doing backdoor politics and everything else under the sun. I'm personally tired of that, and I think every one of my council members are tired of it as well. That's the only reason. What I'll amend my motion is to table this tonight, and the two sides, if you will, get together and iron out a deal that's good for the children of this parish, okay? This is politics up here tonight, and it's very distasteful, okay? The old adage is, or the old saying is, what is the cost of one life? The longer we talk about it, the longer we take the chance of somebody getting hurt. We've been fortunate so far, it has not happened. So I'm gonna make a motion that the two sides get together and come back with us. I think it should come back, it's gonna have to come back to us for us to send it to the Attorney General's office, or the legal? No. Okay, then I'm gonna make the motion that the two sides get together, and once they agree on it, send it to the State Attorney General's office and fast track it, get it back to this council so we can vote on it and get this moving. That's my motion.
That's correct.
Second.
And seconded by Mr. Carl Harding. We have a motion and we have a second. Mr. Amity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hebert.
Yes, sir.
Just on the rules, the question was asked, does it have to go to committee and then hold over for 2 weeks? Can we just keep this public hearing open?
No, sir, you can't, because I would tell you, obviously the ordinance is going to be changed. You
So
got to
it'll be
pull
too
out of there,
much.
about me out of there. And so it's going to have to be reintroduced. Let it go to the Attorney General. He may tell us how to tweak it further and have ideas. Once he rules on it and tells us what to do, then you're going to have something to bring back to the council. With all due respect to all of y'all, and I think all of y'all, but maybe one person, I think y'all all realize y'all not constitutional lawyers, okay? And so at least thank you for following my advice on this. And with all due respect to all of y'all, every one of y'all have called me, including you, Mr. Michel. I help you write an ordinance in Broadmoor. And you're not going to pull what you pull with Candace with me.
Okay.
I'm putting you on notice right now. Do not disparage me publicly anymore.
Okay.
I've had enough of it.
Well, I just want to say that, of course, I support your motion, Mr. Babin, and that's kind of what I had hoped to do with our last meeting, is to try to work out some details. Mr. DeGate put together a version of the ordinance for his that we brought together, and then we got some things back from the sheriff on Monday, and I had hoped that there could be another meeting to discuss, okay, where are the differences, how we can do, and I know you put it on the agenda to try to speed it up, but I don't think it was quite ready, so I think tabling it's probably a good something good for us to do. And first of all, we got to get the numbers right, so at least the sections and everything else is. But we just need to dot the i's and cross the t's, and I think that's a good move. But as far as what we did with Mr. Vince DeGate, and understood Mr. Vince DeGate at our last meeting, when I got involved, I went to Mr. DeGate and said, Mr. DeGate, I want you to work for the council. And he was working for the council, which means he gave me advice, but if I told him in his draft I didn't want this in there, he wasn't going to put it in there because I was the client. So in that case, he was representing the council, and I didn't have to listen to him. So, we could have changed the ordinance. However, he would have gotten up here and said, I disagree with this part of the ordinance, and I don't think you should vote for it if there was one item that I refused to do. If we were close and we had two ordinances, my goal was I was going to put both ordinances to the council and let the council decide on if there was like one little minor detail. So, I think it's a good thing. We need to work it out. We need to get this language right. And if we vet it with the Attorney General's office, then that will help us if we get sued, because we now have an Attorney General's opinion on our side. So I think that'll give all of us, I think, more security. I know, Mr. Harding, you want to say some things?
Yeah, I want to recognize that Mr. DeHart had mentioned that school starts again on August 10th, and he wanted to bring that point out. Also, Mr. Philip Martin, nice to see you, and Dane. I think we're on the right track. Everybody just chill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Ms. Domingue. Let's see where you are. There you are.
Yeah. Mr. Harding, I think we've been sitting by each other too long, because I'm going to echo exactly what you just said. You know, my kids, their last day of school was today. I know the public schools have 8 or 9 days left. And so we do have a little bit of time this summer to get this taken care of before the kids go back to school. So, you know, hopefully that pushes the legal teams to say, you know, let's try to bring this back and get this done before school starts. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Domingue. Mr. Michel.
Okay, I had a question for the attorney who said that he thought one of us thought they were a constitutional lawyer. I wanted to know which one. I don't know. Carl, Mr. Harding thinks it's him. Okay, so I was just curious to know which one, but thank you. I see he's not here.
Mr. Babin.
Yeah, I'd like to let the sheriff speak on my life, please.
Well, first, we had a meeting when we first started this, and I brought the idea to council. The first meeting, a CPA that was hired by the parish president asked me 3 times with Mr. DeGate about money. I said it wasn't about money. Everything that's been talked about money hasn't come out of my mouth, and I think we made that very clear. So I want to get that straight. This is not about money. It's about safety. I think my track record, if anybody knows the things I've done for the schools, for school safety, violent crimes, critical incidents in schools, I've been involved long before I was a sheriff. I'm a product of the public school system, and you know what? I'm proud of it. But I'm damn sure going to keep our kids safe and do everything I can in my power to keep them safe. If it makes people slow down, that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I've been trying to do. And I brought this. I don't know how many meetings we're going to have. I'm okay with it. I'm trying to work with them, and I'm trying to work with parish government. The last meeting I asked the parish president to be there so we can sit down. Well, that didn't happen. He had other engagements. But I've been to every damn meeting. I'm the elected official. I was elected. And I represent the people of Terrebonne Parish and every child. And I'm getting a little aggravated. And I'm telling you I'm getting aggravated. If we're going to get something done, then come to the meeting. Then we can come to an agreement with our attorneys to make this happen. If not, this is political BS. And I'm going to call it for what it is. But I know you have constituents, and you represent your constituents, and you all have children. And I'm trying to get something done, and I know y'all want to get something done. I am getting aggravated. I am. That's the Marine side of me. But I'm going to tell you right now, I ain't ashamed of it. I'm proud of it because I'm determined. But my determination is for those children, and I'm not going to stop. And y'all going to see me up here as many times we got to figure out who's got to have this opinion or whatever the heck y'all got to figure out. Get it figured out. But I ain't going away. And I do represent the people of Terrebonne Parish and our children, not politics. I didn't run to be a politician. I ran to do a job. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I think that's exactly what y'all did, is to do a job. And part of your job is the welfare of the people on who you represent, not politics. I'm not no expert. I'm a rookie at politics. You know what? I don't want to stay a rookie. I'm just trying to get a job done. And I'll wear that proudly. But I'm telling you before, there's no grass going to grow underneath my feet. And there ain't no parish attorney can operate fast enough because I'd have probably fired him. We need to get something done and things need to move. And if it takes 30 days, I'm willing. I'm willing. Mr. Hebert, that last statement at the bottom, they asked us to put it in. I thought it was retarded, but we did it. Well, I'm just telling you, the things we were asked, we put it in there. We put it in there. Now, all I can say is we'll table it. I'm willing to go to the table. If we got to go to the parish president, our attorneys, that's what I recommend. That we can come to an agreement and leave all this, whatever they call backdooring, whatever they're going to call it. That's fine. I ain't used to it. Bottom line is, if there's something that we got to talk about, I'm going to go do it myself. I don't need to get nobody to do it for me. That's what I recommend. So I'm going to speak my piece. I thank y'all for y'all time tonight, but I ain't going away.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff. Mr. Dirk Guidry.
Sheriff Saunier, thank you for your passion. I really appreciate it. And I know it comes from the heart that you have the safety of our kids in mind and the safety for Terrebonne Parish. It goes back and forth. Everybody's talking money this, money that. Mr. DeGate says something about $14 to $16 million. So in that statement, he's telling me that there is so much problem with speeding in school zones that we're going to collect $14 to $16 million in fines a year. So that's telling me that every year that we send little John and little Susie to school, we putting their lives in danger. Whatever we got to do, we need to get the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, the Sheriff's Office, the District Attorney's Office. We all need to get together and do this for the betterment, not of us sitting in this room, because we don't walk across school zones, but our little kids that we send to, my kids and my grandkids that I send to school, are at risk of getting killed in a school zone. You know, there's a lot of school zones that don't even have flashing lights to cross in these school zones. So, man, look, do what's right. Get together, sit down, Mr. Hebert, get Mr. Dove to sit down, get the sheriff to sit down, get Mr. DeGate to sit down, and do what's best. Not for everybody in here, but do what's best for the children of Terrebonne Parish. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? We have one nay. Show Mr. Majero Michel. Motion to go back in regular order, Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. John Amity. All in favor, say aye. We are, I believe, on general business item C, introduction of an ordinance to update and restructure Chapter 21, Article 5 of the Terrebonne Parish Code of Recreation Districts by amending Sections 21-90 to include budgeting for the recreation districts and enacting Sections 21-94 through 21-98 to provide consistency throughout the rec districts, and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, June 9th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Moved by Mr. Michel, seconded by Mrs. Dirk Guidry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is introduced. Staff reports. A, updates on drainage, pump stations, generators, and other projects. Mr. Toops?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I submitted the report to you all on Monday. I do have a few updates since then, so if you don't mind, I'd like to update the report verbally. On the West Side Boulevard at St. Louis Canal Road Pump Station, we've put down the first layer of limestone for the access road and the path for the hydraulic power unit, and we need to put another layer down. Then we'll be putting down the HPU. And again, this was delayed by the weather last week. We anticipate hopefully the weather cooperating another 2 to 3 weeks. On Enterprise Marine, we finally had our both insurance adjusters for inland marine and boiler and machinery. We're at the pump station today. We're waiting for that reports before we can go on, but we do have a temporary pump at that pump station. On D45 Tiger Bayou, we did pull the burnt motor. We replaced it. We found that the pump itself was jammed, the shaft was bent, and the bearings were seized. So we ordered a new shaft to be machined, and we got new bearings on order. On D70 Gator Court, we found that the several hydraulic hoses were leaking and needed renewal, so those have been ordered. And that concludes my update of the pump station reports. If anybody has any questions, I'll answer them now.
Mr. Harding.
Yes, I received a phone call. I have been receiving a phone call. I think I talked to David in reference to it. But down was D66 at 6349 South by Black, I think. Are you familiar with that? Seemed to be a problem with that pump and the bulkhead. The water is coming back off from Bayou Black off that particular pump. So it might be the bulkhead that's having a problem, not necessarily the pump.
Which pump station, Mr. Harding?
D66.
66?
Yeah, down by the used to be the old Cower Bridge, now Lawless Gibson Bridge.
I'll have our people check on it first thing in the morning.
Yeah, and I did actually have an opportunity to understand that Chris and David, you're still working on the reporting system that we actually need, because I did get a number of a report that I actually have. So the reporting system is in the play and y'all working it out, right? So far as numbers, because we asked that within our districts, if someone makes a complaint, it was supposed to be worked on, that we can follow the complaints so we can actually get with our constituents, and then if they call us back, we can track those complaints that we have. I'm not only just asking this, but then making a presentation to those people. This is what I'm telling the people. We're working on this. So we want to actually track these complaints so we won't have, we can follow. Everybody has to be accountable, because you know, when Ms. Mosley called me, or she put words out there on Facebook, I want to answer for these people. So I'm not going to filibuster them. I want to tell them the truth and what we can do, what we cannot do, but I want them to have the ability to actually follow up on some of the complaints that they have. And I appreciate that. I'm good.
Ms. Domain.
Yes, I'll be quick because it's getting kind of late. We get a lot of calls and complaints about flooding, but it's very seldom that we get calls thanking us. And so I just want to thank administration. I had a call from a lady in Lisa Park this week, and she said this is the first rain event that we had that we didn't have any rain and water in the streets. And what you guys, the infrastructure we've put in the last year has really been helping. And so I just want to, thank administration for working with me and working to get the people in Lisa Park out of water. And so we truly appreciate that, and I look forward to working with administration in the future on some other projects that we have in District 5. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you,
Romney?
ma'am.
Yeah, just backing up what Ms. Domain was saying, I think once that 30-inch pump, I think that's going to even dry out Lisa Park a lot more, along with the work that's going to be done on the West Side Boulevard. But real quickly, in a couple of words, Mr. Tooth, just for the general public, how do we stand going into hurricane season with our pumping capacities?
Well, obviously the big one is the Hanson Canal Pump Station, and I got an update today from GIS. Right now, everything is working. All 4 pumps are working. However, we do have 4 relays that need to be replaced on the pump panels. They're coming from Eaton in Mexico, and we've been having problems getting Eaton electrical equipment due to the COVID pandemic for a year now. We estimate it'll take about 2-3 weeks before we get the relays in, and that is one of the major items left to be done before we can do substantial completion. So again, I think that's the big one. On our pump station report, as you saw, we have 4 pumps out of 200 that are down, but we're working on them every day. So our goal, as I stated in one of the meetings a couple of months ago, we had that one meeting that we had 100% efficiency, and that's what we strive for every week.
Give me my light. Yeah, and I just want the public to see that this parish is on it. The administration, the workers. When I go out for rainstorms, because I go look at the hot spots, I run into drainage on those hot spots. I want the parish residents to be assured that the administration, the council, and the Public Works Drainage Department, and really all those that are working on that are on top of their game, and they're getting it done, and I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Domedy. Mr. Babin?
Yeah, listen, I believe that we do a great job with Public Works, but there's some projects that we need to get moving. I've heard other people talk about their council districts tonight, so I want to say it so the people who are watching in District 7 to know that we all working on the Brady Road flooding situation, all right? We all trying to work on the Shrimpers Row. We can't forget about the low-lying areas. I'm not saying that we should put one over the other, because I represent both the city and the parish. But last week in the rain event, if I would not be driving a Jeep, I could not have gone down Shrimpers Row, because the water was up to my running boards on my Jeep. And I was going down to see what's actually next on the agenda is a graveyard completely underwater in Dulac, okay? And I know that's on the agenda next, and we're gonna start moving that forward, and it's maybe because it was on HTV, I don't know. But the point still remains is the Shrimpers Row area it was impassable to cars. You either had to have a Jeep or a pickup truck to get through it, and that was a rain event. Now, I know I'm gonna hear the story that in 4 years, when we have the lock on by the Bubba Dove on the ship channel, that this is all gonna go away. But that's a long 4 years, okay? We have to do something in the Shrimpers Row and the Brady Road area. So thank you very much.
Okay, and Mr. Toops, I don't know if you're going to give the presentation, but also on this is the use of an emergency declaration to build a levee and pump station at the Holy Family Cemetery number 2 on Louisiana Highway 57, Dulac, Louisiana, near the Buquet Bridge. Are you going to give that presentation?
Yes, sir. I'd like for Ms. Suzette to call up the slides. And I'd also like to call Mr. Kevin Rizzo with Delta Coast Consultants, if he's still here.
I think he gave up when everybody started
Okay,
yelling.
so he threw me to the wolves. Anyway, this weekend I saw Martin False on HTV, went down to Shrimpers Row, and as you said, Mr. Babin, the road was flooded. Then he went to this cemetery on Grand Caillou Road, and there he met with Tony Alford, and he also met with Mr. Andy Gibson. The parish president has asked Delta Coast Consultants to look at this situation, to put a levee on the south side of this of this cemetery. And I believe Mr. Andy Gibson has agreed to purchase a 20-inch pump and install it on the drainage canal that's just north of that cemetery, and then we would maintain it. But yeah, you can see these are some of the pictures that I had our very talented IT department gleaned from the HTV videos. You can see that there's a lot of water around these graves. There are seagulls flying around. I know if I had any member of my family buried there, it would tear me up. So again, is this considered a public service? I think so. And there's been talk with Mr. Gibson, and Delta Coast has been tasked with the responsibility to come up with a recommended fix for the cemetery.
Mr. Babin?
Yeah, I just want to add to that, since Andy's name was brought up, and Andy Gibson owns the property right north of this. His family donated this property years ago to the Catholic Church, okay? And again, there's all denominations that are buried in there, the Indians from Dulac and from the whole gamut. Andy Gibson happens to be a personal friend of mine, but Andy Gibson has been pumping this on his own nickel for the last 30 years. He has been trying to keep it up, and he just can't do it anymore. The last flood we had prior to this one, he pumped solid for 240 hours on his tractor, on his nickel. He was pumping this week with a bigger pump, and the pump broke, and then his tractor went out. So this is not a new problem. This is an old problem, and this is prior to this administration. So I'm not dumping on this administration by any stretch of the imagination, because this should have been taken care of probably 20 years ago, but it hadn't. But again, when you see pictures, and Mike, you said it best, if one of your family members was in here, you would be very disheartened also. So again, this is a priority that we need to get done, because it's not going to go away in the next 4 years. So thank you.
And that does not need council action, does it? Because it's an emergency order, Mr. Hebert?
What's that, Darren?
Does that need any council action for his emergency?
No, the emergency order, I'm also involved with it from the legal standpoint. We already have filed a declaration of emergency for preparations for the 2021 hurricane and flood protection. We've actually, there is under the Declaration of Public Emergency Laws, 2 years ago, the legislature created a task force to deal with, and they have been invoked through Earl Hughes, are going to come down and look at the situation, dealing with cemeteries. We got some issues that we got to look at, but we're in the process. Mr. Dove has hired an engineer. We have abstractors, we have legal, and we're trying to move on this as fast as possible.
So the answer is no.
No, you don't need anything. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on. Public wishing to address the council. Mr. Cedric Floyd still here, so thank you for waiting and toughing it out.
That's what I'm saying. We have to
Oh.
go to resolution.
Hold on one second there. Item B, resolution ratifying the appointment of the firm Delta Coast Consulting LLC to provide professional service for the Holy Family Cemetery Drainage Improvement Project and authorize the execution of an agreement for these services. Moved by Mr. Danny Babin, second by Mr. Dirk Guidry. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Now, skipped over one item. Hold on, let me turn your light on. Come on, work computer.
And I'll be very brief.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, parish council members. I would say parish president, but he's left, and other elected and appointed officials. I'm Cedric Floyd, president of Data Center LLC, a full-service reapportionment and redistricting company. In the next 90 days, the 2020 census will be released. Since the last census 10 years ago, there have been newcomers into your parish, some residents moving out, deaths, and residents moving within the parish. And with these changes, your 9 council districts are out of balance. That is why you must redistrict federal law, state law, and also your parish charter, section 2.02. With 40 years of providing redistricting services, Data Center is the most experienced redistricting company in the state. This is our 5th U.S. Census. We have worked for 40 governmental entities. It's on your back page right there. 10 parish governments, and the 11th one in April, Livingston Parish Council. I'm a demographer, chief demographer, the only person in the state, a certified demographer in all 3 federal courts. Been part of 16 election actions, all successful. We guarantee our work. When it's time for redistricting, I would like the Terrebonne Parish Council to please consider my company, Data Center LLC, and everything else is there for you. That's my abbreviated presentation. And I've had a good time tonight. This is real government. In the bayou. Thank you. Yeah, I got mine. It's mine.
All right. 4 committee reports. Public Service Committee. Mr. Dirk Guidry.
I make a motion the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Public Services Committee meeting held on Monday, May 24th, 2021, and have 4 public hearings. Item 1, revise certain portions of Section 8-2 and 8-3 of the Terrebonne Parish Code of Ordinance pertaining to the days and times associated with the public display and sales of fireworks and call for a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, June 9th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Number 2, authorize the parish president, Gordon Dove, to enter into and ratify a cooperative endeavor agreement between DDC, DTBA, TPCG, TGMC for the purpose of developing and operating a farmers market at the downtown marina called the Market at the Marina, and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, June 9, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Item 3, to amend the parish code of Terrebonne Parish by adding to Chapter 8, 18 Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Article 4, Operation of Vehicles Division 2, Parish, and to amend Sections 18-91 to 25 miles per hour on Country Drive from Nate Lane to 4408 Country Drive to provide for the installation of said signs to amend ordinance number 8645 to change the name of Boulanger Street to Nate Lane as previously adopted in ordinance number 6445 to provide for other matters relative thereto and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, June 9, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. And number 4, to create a North Terrebonne Recreation District, define the boundaries and governing authority thereof in accordance with LARS 334562 regarding recreation districts creation by parishes, cooperative status, powers, and domicile, providing for other matters in connection with the foregoing, and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, June 9, 2021 at 6:30 p.m.
Motion by Mr. Dirk Guidry, second by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Mr. John Amady, the Budget and Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee meeting held on Monday, May 24, 2021, which calls one public hearing to introduce an ordinance to amend the 2021 adopted operating budget, 5-year capital outlay budget, and budgeted positions of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Petite Caillou Drainage System Project, $50,775. La Petite Theater Improvement Project, $250,000. Houma Fire Department Firehouse Subgrant, $16,857. Road and Bridge Signs, $230,000. West Side Alma Street Drainage, $65,167. West Side Alma Street Drainage Project, $1,369,783. Civic Center Stage Weights, $19,300. Houma Fire Department, $1,577. Transit, $3,433. And reclass several CDBG recovery projects, net effect 0. Juvenile Detention, $7,870. Item A, delete full-time social worker, and B, add full-time assistant director. Non-district recreation, O&M, $59,109. Item A, add 2 part-time groundsmen, and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, June 9th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m.
Motion by Mr. John Amady, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 5, appointments to various boards, commissions, committees, and commissions. Rec District 9, 1 expiring term. Mr. Willie St. Pierre expresses his interest in being reappointed. Motion to open, close, and reappoint by Mr. Danny Babin. Seconded by Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Mr. St. Pierre is reappointed. 6, vacancies to various boards, committees, and commissions. Veterans Memorial District, 1 unexpired term due to a resignation. Houma Terrebonne Regional Planning Commission, 1 vacancy due to a resignation. Recreation District number 3A, 1 expired term and 1 unexpired term due to a resignation. 7, announcements. Parish President, anything, Mr. Toops?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. You all should have gotten a flyer on the Air Base splash pad. I'd like to announce that it's going to be open this Saturday at 1 o'clock. It's going to be open all days except Tuesdays during the summer. To get to the splash pad, it's off of Moffett Road. You take, you turn off Moffett onto Berry Court, and then turn right on FOP Court, and then just follow the circle, and it'll take you to the splash pad. It's really great. We've got all the bugs worked out of it, and we've got all the signage, we've got the insurance in place, and we hope the kids can come out and really enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toops. Council members' announcements, Mr. Gerald Michel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, based upon the letter from Councilman John Navy, I would ask the public to offer prayers for Councilman Navy that he recover from whatever medical issue he has. And secondly, I would like for everyone to be aware that school is about to be out. So please be aware when driving through subdivisions that the kids are going to be out playing. So use additional precautions as you're driving through these subdivisions and wherever children are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michel. Mr. Babin?
Yes, Monday is Memorial Day, and there's a couple events that are taking place in Houma this weekend. One of them is Saturday at the Jim Bowie Park, right across from the old Homer Golf Course. The Garden Club is putting on, it's called a Gold Star Memorial Marker dedication. We have 90 men that were killed in World War II from Terrebonne Parish. And back in the day, some of the mothers planted the trees, actually, in Jim Bowie Park. And Saturday, starting at 11 o'clock, the community band's going to be playing before. They're going to dedicate the plaques with all of these gentlemen's names on them on the trees at Jim Bowie Park. It's going to be, I think, a very moving program. So I'm just wanting to put that out to everybody if they can attend it. It actually starts at 11 o'clock Saturday morning. And then Monday, the World War II Museum on Barrett Street at noon is going to have their Memorial Day service or Memorial Day ceremony. So I encourage everybody to do it, to turn out. Thank you.
Mr. Trosclair.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as I do every week, every meeting, I ask for your thoughts and prayers for, especially this week, for our, with Memorial Week Monday, Memorial Day on Monday, for our veterans, active military, our fallen veterans and deceased veterans, especially on Memorial Day, our first responders, law enforcement, and firefighters, to keep you in thoughts and prayers. Thanks a lot.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion adjourned by Mr. John Amity. Second by Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. We are adjourned.